Chapter 123. Qin Guang and Zhuo Jingxi were not in the mood to care what Fatty Wang wanted to do. As long as they did their job well, he could only disgust himself no matter how disgusting he was. An academic exchange with a well-known institution like MIT, even if the main object of the exchange was only the undergraduate students, the other party was only led by an associate professor. It was just a very informal exchange. After all, it was just a group of undergraduate students from both sides sitting together and chatting. There was no need to expect any great sparks of thought to collide. It was more like treating it as a high-level tea party. However, this was still a top priority for Qin Guang and the rest of the class. MIT's background was too big and too deceitful. There was no doubt that Qin Guang would be responsible for the main speaker and the main exchange. But in addition, he had to come up with a paper of sufficient value. At the very least, it had to be a summary article. When Zhuo Jingxi turned her head and looked at Qin Guang, he immediately shook his head like a rattle and repeatedly emphasized that he did not have the ability. The academic exchange was only 4 or 5 days away, and he still had to work hard to improve his professional English vocabulary. He did not have time to write a paper. Zhuo Jingxi thought this was reasonable, so she did not consider giving this task to Qin Guang. In the end, the task of writing the paper fell on the heads of a few girls led by Sun Xiaoxuan. There was no way around it. In the top student team there were more women than men. Just look at the leader of the male team, Master Guang. There was no need to say anything more. This matter was announced by Zhuo Jingxi directly to the class at the end of the second class in the morning. When everyone heard that they actually had the opportunity to have an academic exchange with students from a world-class institution like MIT, they were all excited. No one would have thought that this was actually Wang Ren's conspiracy and framing. Of course, Zhuo Jingxi would not say it. She just happily arranged things step by step. After seeing Qin Guang's ability, Zhuo Jingxi was now at ease. As for letting Sun Xiaoxuan lead the female team to write the paper, there was no doubt about it. The results of the female top students were obvious to everyone. However, when Zhuo Jingxi announced the main speaker, everyone in the class was suddenly excited. It was because Teacher Zhuo's choice was too unexpected. It was actually Qin Guang. No matter what, no one could accept this cruel reality. Of course, it wasn't that Master Qin Guang's popularity in the class was bad. On the contrary, be it boys or girls, apart from Pan Jiang's group, most of them had a rather good relationship with Qin Guang himself. Now that Pan Jiang had disappeared from everyone's lives, the group of people who used to surround him naturally knew that they were not welcome. They were busy repairing their relationships with others, and would not take the initiative to find trouble with Qin Guang. So the question was, why was everyone so shocked and unable to accept it? Was there a need to ask? Of course, it was because Qin Guang's level 4-5 consecutive kneels were too domineering. It made one unable to look at him directly. To be honest, so far, Qin Guang was the only one in the class who hadn't passed level 4. Master Guang's journey to level 4 had become a legend in the class. Even one had given him that kind of reward. Qin Guang's reputation for his English level didn't need to be mentioned. Teacher Zhuo, Qin Guang I'm afraid he... Well, even Sun Xiaoxuan, who had secretly pledged her heart to Qin Guang, couldn't hold back. It wasn't that she wanted to do it herself, but she was purely worried for Qin Guang. She was afraid that he would embarrass himself in front of everyone. Sun Xiaoxuan thought that Teacher Zhuo was deliberately trying to punish Qin Guang, so she couldn't help but blame Teacher Zhuo in her heart. She felt that she had gone a little overboard. Qin Guang had only given up on the school sports meet. You didn't have to push him to the front of international friends to embarrass yourself. Moreover, if this matter were to blow up, it wouldn't be good for the school either. Zhuo Jingxi was also quite speechless at this moment. She recalled the instructions that Qin Guang had specially come back to tell her, and her face was full of bitter smiles. Why did this kid have so many wicked ideas? He said, for the time being, don't let others know that his English was no longer what it used to be, because once this news reached Wang Ren's ears, he was afraid that there would be unexpected complications. Zhuo Jingxi thought about it and it made sense. Wang Ren had been deliberately trying to punish her. Once he realized that his plot hadn't succeeded, who knew what else he would do? After all, as the Dean of Student Affairs, he had too much power in the school, especially when it came to student management. So she couldn't explain it now. She could only say to Sun Xiaoxuan, Xiaoxuan, he's fine. He's really fine. You just focus on your thesis and leave the rest to me and Qin Guang. On the other side, Gao Ye, Sun Xiaoxuan's best friend, jumped out to defend her. Teacher Zhuo, I don't know what you're thinking about this, but I really don't understand. Xiaoxuan's English level is obvious to all. Qin Guang's level? Okay, he's Xiaoxuan's sweetheart, so I can't say anything bad about him. Sun Xiaoxuan fiercely poked Gao Ye's waist. Gao Ye, what nonsense are you talking about? Gao Ye chuckled and moved to the side. When Sun Xiaoxuan stopped making a fuss, she continued to come over and say, Teacher Zhuo, really let Xiaoxuan go. We can't drop the ball in front of our international friends. Sun Xiaoxuan thought for a moment, then frowned and said, Gao Ye, don't think things are so simple. Presenting the thesis is one thing. I might be able to manage this, but the other party must have prepared a thesis as well. After the presentation, everyone will have to sit down and talk. I can't do this well. I really can't. My English isn't good enough when it comes to adapting. I'll definitely stutter. Gao Ye knew Sun Xiaoxuan's level very well, so she knew that she wasn't being modest on purpose. She frowned and didn't know what to say. The rest of the class was also in an uproar, whispering non-stop. Obviously, no one was mentally prepared for Zhuo Jingxi's abrupt decision. As for Qin Guang himself, sitting next to his three grandsons Bai Nyangzi, Lin Jingwei and Xiong'er, he was treated with even more disdain. When it came to their own family, they hated him even more than others. This was really stabbing a knife into Qin Guang's heart. This was especially true for White Snake. His poisonous tongue was like a crane's crown as he spoke. Everything he spat out was a killing weapon. I say, Brother Guang, we're brothers. How badly did you offend Teacher Zhuo for her to send you to the gallows like this? Killing your father and stealing your wife, it's nothing more than this, right? You should know that you're facing a top student from MIT, not a 2-year-old kid who only knows how to say is am and I. To be honest, with my many years of experience as by fan of Jinhuan Yiji Mei, Brother Guang, with your ability, at most you can chat with third-grade American students, and that's only at the level of introducing your name. Lin Jingwei, who was at the side, only added, Brother Guang, I helped you revise the paper you did a few days ago. I marked the correct answers for every question and wrote in Chinese why you chose them. Go back and take a good look. And on your paper, I drew red crosses for you using tiny characters. It's too conspicuous and I'm afraid it'll hurt your self-esteem. Don't ask me why it's every question. Xiong Jinka huffed and puffed for a long time. To be honest, Brother Guang, if something happens to you, don't take it too hard. If you jump off the building, my dragon elephant prajna art hasn't been perfected yet, so I won't be able to catch you. Qin Guang felt suffocated. F***ck, your stabbing skills, why the hell did I unknowingly evolve to such a terrifying level? Chapter 124. Foolish mortals. Since you guys are heartless, don't blame me for being heartless. Did they really think that Qin Guang had made Zhuo Jingxi keep it a secret because he had such long-term considerations as he said? Of course not. Hiding it from Fatty Wong was just in passing. Qin Guang's real target wasn't Fatty Wong, but these demon-like students who kept jumping around him. Fatty Wong was just a pitiful cover. My real target was you guys. Bai Nyangzi, right? Kaki, right? Little Linzi, right? Lin Pingji, right? Xiong'er, right? Second, right? I'll let you guys be cocky for now. I'll hide it from you guys first, then I'll scare you guys. When you guys see the old man's true strength, then all of you will obediently offer your knees. I want a 10-year-old knee. No additives. Faced with these people stabbing him one by one, Qin Guang only put on a mysterious smile and said nothing. You guys don't understand? Then he kept reminding himself to calm down. I must calm down. I must not punch Bai Nyangzi's face, tear his mouth apart and pull out his tongue. Oh my, I'm thinking too far. Stop. You don't understand my ass. Hurry up and find Teacher Zhuo to get rid of this matter. We're doing this for your own good. Bai Nyangzi was already taking advantage of them. Lin Jingwei even walked over to Zhuo Jingxi, planning to speak on behalf of Qin Guang. Damn it. Our friendship is over. From now on, I can't be friends with you guys anymore. I've become Lioli's savior, this heaven-defying main character identity. From now on, I'm destined to live a lonely and invincible life. Qin Guang gritted his teeth in hatred. He spent a lot of effort to control these three good-for-nothings who were focused on making their teammates miserable. I'll tell the three of you. All of you sit down obediently. Don't say another word of nonsense or don't blame me for turning against you. Qin Guang was domineering. Are you going to fall out with me? Very arrogant, right? Qin Guang's domineering CEO posture didn't last more than 5 seconds before he was brutally suppressed by his three grandsons. However, seeing that Qin Guang had made up his mind, the three of them stopped making a fuss. They looked at Qin Guang as if he was an idiot, looking at him as if he was a hopeless fool. Qin Guang was furious and gnashed his teeth. Did he really think that his 20 years of focus on face-slapping was for nothing? All of you, just you wait. When the day comes, I will definitely repay the contempt you have given me by 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times. Pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger, pretending to be pretentious and slapping people's faces, I was born with this skill. If you provoke me, I'll beat anyone and I'll beat my own people to death. Swollen. Smash. I will endure, I must endure. Michelangelo. Raphael. Da Vinci and someone else. At this moment, he was possessed by the divine tortoise. What the old man pursued was the terrifying pleasure that would erupt after the most intense suppression. Finally, the matter of the speaker being Qin Guang, Zhuo Jingxi withstood the immense pressure and Qin Guang himself withstood all sorts of doubtful gazes, but he still managed to overcome all the difficulties and dangers to settle this matter. In the midst of this, there were people who suspected that Zhuo Jingxi wanted to punish Qin Guang. Qin Guang had to personally go on stage to express his stance before he helped Zhuo Jingxi clear up the misunderstanding. Fortunately, this person was Qin Guang. If it was someone with poor social relations, this matter would definitely have been blown up to the heavens. Zhuo Jingxi let out a long sigh of relief. When no one was looking, she secretly glared at Qin Guang, then turned to the other students and said, "Then this matter is decided. Everyone go back and prepare well. In 4 days we will face MIT." When she finished speaking, she swiftly left. It was too strenuous for her to stay in this atmosphere, so she left the rest to Qin Guang to deal with. After Zhuo Jingxi left, the other boys and girls in the class finally could not hold it in any longer. They all came forward to comfort Qin Guang. It was also because these people were more restrained and not as unrestrained as Bai Nyangzi and the other three goods. Otherwise, Qin Guang would really have been forced to speak in a medieval gentleman's accent in front of everyone. But in the end he still held it in. That's right, the most important of the 3 essentials of face slapping was that one must not be impatient. Like a spring, one must let it collapse to its tightest and then explode with a whoosh. Only then would there be the most intense pleasure. The humiliation, now was all for the future eruption. You guys are still so shabby. Take out your clothes. How can ordinary people like you understand this elder brother's realm? My English is something that you can only look up to, something that can only be seen but not reached. I'm not saying it now because I don't want to scare you to death. I'll let you live for a few more days. Later, I'll let you have a taste of the old man's face-slapping skills in front of everyone. If I really want a face slap, I won't even let myself go. I have a special face-slapping skill. After a long commotion, only Sun Xiaoxuan, Gao Ye, and Bai Nyangzi remained. Sun Xiaoxuan came to Qin Guang with a frown. He looked at him worriedly and asked, "Is it really going to be okay?" Qin Guang fiercely patted his chest, which sounded like a drum. "Of course it's going to be okay. You just need to prepare your thesis. Leave the rest to me. I promise to complete the mission." Gao Ye couldn't help but laugh. "I really don't know where you get your confidence from. If it weren't for your handsome face, I would have thought that you were swapped. Anyway, in the next few days you can make up as much as you can. Our Xiaoxuan has to write his thesis, so he can't help you." Lin Jingwei suddenly poked his head out from the side and pointed at his own face. "Really? Who's more handsome, me or Brother Guang?" Gao Ye glared at him. "What do you think? Do you need to ask?" Lin Jingwei had made a big fool of himself. He scowled miserably and went to the side to lick his wounds. His heart, liver, spleen and kidneys all hurt. Sun Xiaoxuan could only sigh in the end. She also felt that it was strange. If it had been someone else, they might not have believed that Qin Guang could do it. But just now, when she saw Qin Guang's confident expression, she actually felt that he could do it. The Qin Guang she knew had never disappointed her. When the two sides separated, Sun Xiaoxuan suddenly remembered what Gao Ye had said. She scolded, "Gao Ye, how could you say that in front of Mr. Zhuo? What do you mean by Qin Guang is my sweetheart?" Gao Ye chuckled. "Xiaoxuan, you don't understand. I'm helping you." Sun Xiaoxuan was even more confused. "What are you helping me with? Although we're university students now, it's not good to say that in front of a teacher, right?" Gao Ye didn't explain further to her. Instead, she put on an unfathomable look. She thought to herself, "Xiaoxuan, as your sister, I'm really trying my best to help you. But in the end, you still have to fight for these things yourself. You can't see clearly because you're closely involved, but as a bystander, I can see clearly." Although she didn't know what had happened between Qin Guang and Mr. Zhuo that morning, there was something wrong with the relationship between the two of them. It was definitely not a simple teacher-student relationship. Chapter 125. The farce that happened in the Department of Environmental Science reached Wang Ren's ears that afternoon. Qin Guang hid it from everyone, and Wang Ren fell for it without hesitation. Lying on the leather swivel chair, Wang Ren took a deep drag on his cigarette and blew out a smoke ring. He muttered, Interesting, this Zhuo Jingxi is really interesting. Are you purposely throwing caution to the wind? They actually arranged for a student who was famous in the academy for 5 consecutive kneels in the 4th level to be the main speaker? Letting that useless student be the main speaker? Thinking of the arrogant and despotic student that day, Wang Ren gritted his teeth in hatred. After asking around, he found out that this guy was indeed famous in the school. First, he was a LV4 student. Second, Qin Guang even beat up another rich kid that Wang Ren knew, Pan Jiang, and sent him to the hospital a few days ago. Unfortunately, the matter was over and Pan Jiang's family did not make a fuss. Otherwise, he would immediately kick that kid out of the school just because of this. He just did not understand why Pan Jiang's family was so powerful, but there was no movement after the matter. Instead, Pan Jiang himself even dropped out of school. Wang Ren only guessed and suspected for a moment. He was worried that Qin Guang was so arrogant that he might have a backer behind him. Later he found out that not only did this Qin Guang not have a backer, but he also often ran online rentals to support his family. He was definitely a poor kid, so he completely let his guard down. You're not joking, are you? You want to turn this into a farce so that I, Wang Ren, can't find a way out? You want to disgust me? Don't mess around. How can I be hurt because of such a small matter? The one who will be unlucky is you. Zhuo Jingxi. How can you be so naive? And Qin Guang, who gave you the courage to talk back to me so unscrupulously? Do you really think that I, Wang Ren, the Dean of Student Affairs, can't do anything to you? I have 10,000 ways to make you regret what you did. Wang Ren couldn't help but feel smug. Previously he was worried that Zhuo Jingxi was a stubborn person who wouldn't budge under the carrot or the stick. That was why he came up with this plan. He wanted to let her know how powerful he was and let her understand that in this academy he, Wang Ren, had more power than Zhuo Jingxi could imagine. This was only the first step in Wang Ren's series of actions. Now, she was digging her own grave by letting a person who didn't understand English go up and embarrass herself. She was dead meat. Just to my liking. As long as Zhuo Jingxi made a major mistake in receiving the MIT academic exchange team, then he would use this matter to force Zhuo Jingxi into a corner step by step. At that time she would only have 2 choices, scram or submit. For a young woman who wanted to make a name for herself, this was a painful and helpless choice. In fact, your family's affairs left you with no choice at all, right? Zhuo Jingxi, you're already mine. In the next few days, all the students in the environmental science department entered a state of working around the clock. When there was a class, of course they would go to class. When there was no class, the female geniuses would gather together and work hard on their thesis. Girls always liked to group together. Even girls with relatively average grades were pulled together. They couldn't embarrass themselves. No matter how unreliable the main speaker was, the girls had to hold back their anger. They couldn't let anything go wrong with their thesis. As for the other boys, although they were not clearly assigned tasks, they didn't want to let go of this rare opportunity to get closer to the girls. Otherwise, would they really be single for the rest of their lives? They were about to graduate, but there were still so many bachelors in the class. Everyone was anxious. The other faculties in the academy, especially the hungry wolves of the civil engineering faculty, are eyeing the 15 golden flowers of the environmental science faculty covetously. They are absolutely irreconcilable. They couldn't let the fertile water flow into the fields of outsiders. They had to fight for their dignity. Therefore, as long as they said that they were preparing a thesis, regardless of whether it was a boy or a girl, they would swarm together. They could only hate the fact that they couldn't follow them into the girls' dorms at night and continue to fight under the lights. Those who needed to prepare the materials prepared the materials, and those who needed to write a chapter wrote a chapter. The atmosphere made people think that they had mistakenly entered the Princeton Research Institute. Well, only the high hopes of the main speaker, Qin Guang, started to appear and disappear mysteriously. He didn't see anyone during class or after class. If it weren't for the fact that his phone was still working, everyone in the class would have thought that this kid was hiding in Thailand. When Qin Guang came back at night, Bai Nyangzi and the others took turns to interrogate him. "Brother Guang, where have you been all day? How can we feel at ease when you're not around?" Lin Jingwei was especially attentive to this matter. It was as if he had become the dog skin plaster that stuck to Gao Ye's back, and also the eyes and ears of the girls. Qin Guang smiled mysteriously and said, "I'm going to prepare some words. Do you guys believe me?" "Believe my A**. My dear brother, tell me, what are you planning to do? How about you let one of us follow you? The way you are now, we are all panicking to death. We feel like the sky is falling." Lin Jingwei desperately shook Qin Guang's shoulders. Qin Guang made up his mind to hide it from these people. In the end, he really didn't lie. He didn't even go to a sports car recently. He really hid in the woods behind his dorm and read the English dictionary. Of course, he remembered that he was a driving god who made 100,000 yuan a day. Time was tight, so he wasn't interested in sports cars. Of course, he was hiding it because he didn't want these people to hear his shocking top-notch spoken English in advance. In order to deliberately hide it, he didn't even speak a word of English when he returned to the dormitory. Even his catchphrase from watching Dota 2 was translated into Chinese, monkey sh*t. You guys don't have to be nervous. I'm working very hard in places that you guys can't see. No. Xiong'er will follow you for the whole day tomorrow. I want to see what you're doing. Lin Jingwei didn't give up. Bai Nyangzi was also huffing and puffing. Yeah. I'll keep an eye on you. Let's see where you can run to. I think you're definitely going to a sports car. Or you're having an affair with one university's campus belle. Qin Guang chuckled. He thought to himself, the one I need to hide the most about my English is Wenwen. Otherwise, when the time comes, how am I going to get her to honor the bet? Don't worry. If I play games these few days, I'll chop off my hand. How about it? Also, Xiong'er, don't even think about following me unless you go to a variety show. Huh? You're going to a variety show? Are you going to enter the showbiz industry? You're abandoning us just like that? The three of them were shocked. Qin Guang grunted, Son, if you participate in Where Daddy Goes, you'll be able to find me. Let's give him a taste of our newly improved Aruba killer move. Chapter 126. No one knew what's going on with Qin Guang and no one could do anything to him. After all, everyone knew that he was famous for being unafraid of anything, and his skin was thicker than a city wall. However, the arrival of the MIT people was getting closer and closer, and the preparation for the thesis was getting more intense. No one had the time or energy to pay attention to the shameless presenter. In any case, everyone was holding in their anger. No matter how ridiculous the situation was, it could only be the fault of the speaker. Our thesis must be of a high class and elegant quality. We're worthy of MIT's guests, and we're worthy of Gokyo University's status as one of the top 10 comprehensive universities in the country. In the blink of an eye, it was the first day of the academic exchange. Sun Xiaoxuan began to panic, his heart burning with impatience. There was no other reason. Originally, she planned to take out the thesis in advance and even personally edit it into an English version. Then she would drag Qin Guang to practice. However, the final draft had yet to be completed. There was still a lot of editing to be done. Who knew if there was a logical problem? She would have to revise it, let alone translate it into an English version and practice with Qin Guang. She couldn't be blamed. Everyone was too focused on perfection and the preparation time was too tight. It was only a short 4 days. On the first day they came up with the idea. On the second day they finalized the outline and started writing. On the third day they were halfway through. Today was the last day, but they didn't even have the first draft. It was because everyone set their goals too high from the beginning. They made the topic too big. They used the school's previous SCI papers as a self-assessment standard. Those were all doctoral students who spent more than half a year to write. No matter how good Sun Xiaoxuan's group was, they were still a group of third-year undergraduate students. They only had 4 days left. But even though he was so anxious that tears were welling up in his eyes, Sun Xiaoxuan didn't complain, nor did he reveal the slightest bit of impatience in front of others. On the contrary, he methodically pushed everything forward step by step. After all, she just wanted to take out the draft in advance so that Qin Guang could practice. What she was most afraid of was actually Qin Guang making a fool of himself. That night, Sun Xiaoxuan and a group of girls worked in Zhuo Jingxi's office until 4 in the morning. Holding the heavy paper, Sun Xiaoxuan and the others felt extremely complicated. In the short 8 hours since the first draft was completed in the afternoon, everyone had changed the draft 3 times and had changed more than 2,000 words. At first, the boys were still able to help, but when it came to the final fine-tuning, the boys were powerless. At around 11 o'clock, Lin Jingwei became the last boy to stay. He left because he couldn't help much. It wasn't easy. At this time, the girls looked at each other and felt the urge to cry, but in the end, everyone held back. Ever since they entered the university, this was the first time that the whole class was so united and focused on the same thing. Fortunately, it was done at the last moment. Although this paper hadn't been submitted yet, and everyone wasn't sure how many SCI impact factors it would get, it definitely wouldn't be too bad. One had to know that this was written by a group of third-year undergraduate students. This was already an incredible thing. However, Sun Xiaoxuan couldn't relax at all. What was waiting for them was the academic conference tomorrow. At that time, It would be the real time to present this paper. However, it was already too late now. Forget about calling Chen Guang to practice in advance, they didn't even have time to translate. This was only the Chinese version of the final draft. There was still a long way to go before it could be translated into English and reach a standard that could be published or given a speech. A professional Chinese to English translation was not an easy task. This meant that what awaited them the next day would be a complete failure, no matter how well written the thesis was. Everyone couldn't help but imagine the scene of Chen Guang standing on the podium, looking at the paper and being speechless and unable to say a word. The scene was too beautiful and they couldn't look at it directly. When they thought about it, it was simply depressing and depressing. Xiaoxuan, what kind of sh*t is this? I really don't know what Teacher Zhuo is thinking. Why did he insist on letting Chen Guang do it? Isn't this a waste of our efforts? Gaoya still had a bad temper. Only with her relationship with Sun Xiaoxuan did she not have to worry about Sun Xiaoxuan getting angry. Sun Xiaoxuan smiled bitterly and shook his head. Gaoya, don't blame Teacher Zhuo. Chen Guang didn't do anything wrong. Maybe they really did have a special consideration. Gaoya was furious. What do you mean Chen Guang didn't do anything wrong? Take a look at what he has been doing for the past few days. Lin Jingwei told me that the few of them haven't seen Chen Guang practicing his spoken English. It's so much so that they haven't seen him since dawn. They don't even know where Chen Guang went, let alone the others. What is this? What is this? Sun Xiaoxuan sighed. Let's not talk about Chen Guang. Even we don't have the ability to read the original Chinese manuscript in English in front of the MIT students. I can't do it, I really can't. The other girls also sighed, knowing that Sun Xiaoxuan was right. But to translate this article into a standard English version, we might not even be able to finish it in 2 or 3 days. After all, we're not very good at English grammar yet. Sigh. Gaoya also thought the same. Just then the sound of keys came from the office door. It was Zhuo Jingxi who had brought supper. As soon as she entered she said, "Everyone must be tired, right? Come and have some supper." As soon as she finished speaking, she saw Sun Xiaoxuan holding the manuscript in his hands. She was overjoyed and walked over to pick up the manuscript. She then told the girls to quickly eat something to fill their stomachs. After everyone finished eating, Zhuo Jingxi glanced through the outline of the thesis. She was pleasantly surprised. Even as a PhD student, she felt that the quality of the thesis was very high. Not bad. Thank you for your hard work, Zhuo Jingxi said happily. Gaoya said, Teacher Zhuo, our thesis barely passed, but who's going to read it tomorrow? And this is the original Chinese version. Zhuo Jingxi was stunned. She had just realized this problem and her heart skipped a beat. She wanted Chen Guang to read the Chinese version in English on the spot? Could he do it? Why don't you all go back to sleep first? I'll see if I can translate the thesis into English overnight. Zhuo Jingxi had no other ideas, so she could only bite the bullet and try. But there are more than 6,000 words here, Gaoya said. Zhuo Jingxi's heart skipped a beat. She slowly put down the manuscript and calculated the time. It's 4:30 a.m. now, and the exchange meeting is at 9 o'clock a.m. tomorrow. There's only 4.5 hours left. Chapter 127. Sun Xiaoxuan clenched his teeth. It's all my fault. I should have prepared earlier and let everyone translate it into English while I wrote it in Chinese. Zhuo Jingxi patted the back of Sun Xiaoxuan's hand. Xiaoxuan, don't blame yourself. It's not your fault. Besides, the Chinese version hasn't been finalized yet. Who knows what will be changed or how? We can't do the English translation. There's no way to change the order. But what do we do now? Sun Xiaoxuan and the others looked at Zhuo Jingxi with blank eyes. Looking at the girl's empty eyes, Zhuo Jingxi felt bad and sighed heavily. Now that it's come to this, we can only bite the bullet and believe in Chen Guang. At this time, I don't want to hide it from you anymore. Chen Guang's English is better than you think. I've never seen a college student with a more authentic spoken language. Maybe he can do it. You should go back to your dorms and rest. It's too late now. I'll come to the girls' dorms tomorrow morning to wake you up. Sorry for the hard work. What? The girls didn't pay attention to the second half of Zhuo Jingxi's words. They were shocked by the first half. Did we hear it wrong? This is the worst joke of the year? Chen Guang's English is good and his spoken language is authentic? Teacher Zhuo, I can't believe your lies to comfort people at all. Teacher Zhuo, how long have you known him? Less than 2 weeks? How long have we known him? 3 years. How can we not know what his level is? Even Sun Xiaoxuan, a Qin Kan and Qin Fa, couldn't help but blush and feel ashamed after hearing this kind of nonsense. Teacher Zhua, your level of lying with your eyes wide open, I can't do it. Forget it, I'll just treat it as a joke. The girls could only pinch their noses and believe it. They really didn't have a second choice. Even if they felt that Teacher Zhua must have been drugged to say such nonsense, they could only accept it. There really wasn't enough time. The next day, almost everyone in the environmental sciences class woke up early. Even Sun Xiaoxuan and the other top students, who had stayed up until almost 5 in the morning, opened their eyes at 7 in the morning. There was no need for Zhuo Jingxi to wake them up. There were too many things weighing on people's hearts. Even if they were extremely tired, it was still difficult for them to fall asleep. Moreover, these were little girls who had yet to experience society. Their temperaments were not that steady. After returning to the dormitory, these poor girls tossed and turned on their beds, unable to fall asleep. Their minds kept thinking about what would happen the next morning, as if they were having a nightmare. In the end, it was equivalent to them taking a nap for more than 2 hours. Although everyone knew that it wasn't good for their skin, the last hurdle was right in front of them. They could only grit their teeth and endure it. Even if it was embarrassing, he had to accept it. After all, it wasn't as if the sky would collapse. The other boys weren't much better. When they thought of their future wives being tortured by the academic exchange, their hearts ached. Well, even though they didn't know which girl was their future wife, it wasn't important. Anyway, they had to hurt their hearts first. If they cast a wide net to catch a few more fish at once, they would definitely be able to hit one. Only old Master Chen Guang seemed to be in a very stable mood. He ate well and slept well. He opened his eyes at dawn. However, the moment he opened his eyes, he realized that something was wrong. Lin Jingwei's 3 grandsons actually tied him up while he was asleep. If you tied me up, then so be it, but why did you have to tie me up so tightly? So shameful. Also, what was the meaning of those 2 ropes that went from my crotch all the way to my shoulders? Everyone please listen to me. There's something this old man doesn't understand. Why am I tied up like a dumpling by all of you? And it's even a dumpling with meat filling. It's the kind of dumpling that can't pass the trial. I can't accept this humiliation. Lin Jingwei pounced on him fiercely. Brother Guang, don't blame us for being merciless. There are only 2 hours left until the academic exchange. Gao Ye and the others worked until 5 last night before they finally finished the thesis. No matter what, we can't let you get away this morning. Bai Nyangzi nodded his head like a chick pecking at rice. That's right. That's why we have to tie you up and escort you to the academic building. We have to at least let you read the thesis before the people from MIT arrive. Xiong Jinka stood below and did not say anything. He took out a pole out of nowhere. It was obvious that the 3 of them wanted to use the pole to carry Qin Guang over. F***CK. That's enough. Bai Nyangzi, did you come up with this binding art? Qin Guang forced himself to do a sit-up and sat up straight. He looked down and was instantly embarrassed. The level of this art of binding could not be achieved without 10 years of painstaking research. Bai Nyangzi blushed slightly. Yes. How is it? Not bad, right? I'm not bad, you old ancestor. Have you been watching too many movies about Billy King recently? Your shameful bondage technique is simply at your fingertips. Don't tell me you guys really want me to go to the classroom in my underwear and a towel? Untie me. I'll beat you all to death. After about a minute, Qin Guang finally regained his freedom. He had just put on the t-shirt when he felt a chill on his arm. He poked his head out and saw that Lin Jingwei had taken out a prop handcuff and was handcuffing himself and Qin Guang at the same time. Brother Guang, don't look at me like you want to eat me alive. I haven't showered in a few days. Now that things have come to this, as your life and death friend, I will definitely not let you have any chance to escape at the last minute. Anyway, if it were someone else, they would also end up in the dark. After thinking about it, as a family we should send you to the execution ground. That would be more worthy of the hard work of the others. We won't say a word about righteousness before family. Anyway, let's hurry and meet up with class rep Sun and the others. Teacher Zhou arrived early in the morning. Time is of the essence. Lin Jingwei said with a resolute tone. Qin Guang's face darkened. No wonder these scumbags were guarding against him like a thief early in the morning. They were afraid that he would run away. What kind of person do you think I am? I, Qin Guang, am a responsible person. I dare to do what I do. My words carry enormous weight. I told you to leave this matter to me and I will definitely do it well. Can you not give me this kind of bullsh**t situation? Bai Nyangzi grabbed Qin Guang and Lin Jingwei's hands, which were handcuffed together, and raised them to the sky. Oh yeah. Congratulations to Qin Guang for winning this year's international lying contest. He only said one sentence. Get lost. Don't touch my right hand. I'm a wounded person. No matter how uncertain everyone was, 10 minutes later, Qin Guang and the others finally stood in the classroom of the school building. Lin Jingwei was still handcuffed to him, but Xiong didn't follow. He went to buy breakfast for everyone. Chapter 128. At that moment, Gaoya looked at Qin Guang with an unfriendly expression. Even though she knew that it would put her best friend, Sun Xiaoxuan, in a difficult position, she couldn't force a sincere smile. The other girls were more restrained than Gaoya, but they all had dark circles under their eyes. They looked tired, sleepy and disappointed, and they couldn't even lift their spirits. Although Zhuo Jingxi was confident in her heart, that was in the past. Now that she was looking at this high-quality Chinese thesis, she was no longer confident. An undergraduate student had less than 2 hours to prepare, and he had to take a Chinese paper to an academic exchange with a guest from MIT. Just thinking about it made one's scalp go numb. It was like a fantasy. No matter how good Qin Guang's spoken English was, Zhuo Jingxi couldn't forget the look on his face that day when he was confused by the long list of professional terms. However, she also knew that Qin Guang hadn't been idle these past few days. Others might have no idea where Qin Guang was hiding, but Zhuo Jingxi would help him change his bandages every day. She would also ask about his progress every day, and she even tested him a few times. His professional English had truly improved swiftly. It's all my fault. Sun Xiaoxuan was still blaming himself. I was too slow and wasted everyone's time. I apologize. As she spoke, tears began to roll down her cheeks again. Seeing this scene, Qin Guang immediately cried out, "Oh, my little Xuan, my squad monitor's son. Don't cry. This isn't the end of the line yet. Didn't you guys get the paper out? In short, leave the rest to me." Sun Xiaoxuan's heart almost stopped when he heard Qin Guang call him Little Sunday. He smiled through his tears and patted Qin Guang's chest. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Gaoya, who was watching from the side, rolled her eyes. She thought to herself, "My sister, you two are in public and at such a critical moment. Can't you be more serious? Xiaoxuan, did you give Qin Guang a whole pot of magic potion? You were still crying a second ago, but in the blink of an eye, you've entered the state of a shy young lady? All right, Qin Guang. Although I don't know where you got your confidence from, and we don't know what level you're at right now, since things have already come to this point, we won't have much hope even if it's us. In any case, do your best." Gaoya represented the other girls and expressed their stance. "Let's try everything we can. According to the theory of negative and negative is positive, dying twice in a row might really bring us back to life." Looking at Sun Xiaoxuan and Qin Guang's actions, Zhuo Jingxi's eyes flashed with a profound light. However, she did not say anything else. She handed the paper to Qin Guang and said, "Qin Guang, take a look at this paper first. Time is tight and there's no time for you to practice." "All right. You guys hurry up and take a good rest on the table. At least get rid of the dark circles on your eyes. Otherwise, when you meet your international friends later, they will think that our country is suffering from famine. Anyway, I'll give you guys a hint. Today is the day that I, the 4th level and 5th level, lose to Qin Guang and make a comeback. All you have to do is hold your breath. Next, it's time to witness a miracle. Brothers and sisters, please trust me this once. I won't say anything more than that. I can only tell you that if I screw this up, God will punish me to be a bachelor for the rest of my life. That's a vicious oath, isn't it?" At this moment, Qin Guang felt that it's about time for him to hide it. He initially wanted to keep it a secret, but he couldn't help feeling apologetic when he saw how these people were crying and losing their confidence. It was time to give everyone a little bit of hope, to let them know that believing in Brother Guang wasn't a mistake. Qin Guang's resolute words stunned everyone. Even though many of them thought that he was joking, they couldn't deny the sincerity on his face. His image was too brilliant and convincing. They couldn't help but believe it. Brother Guang. Really? Lin Jingwei tilted his head and looked at Qin Guang with a look of disbelief. Qin Guang nodded heavily. Of course. All right. Brothers, we believe in you. In an instant, the atmosphere in the classroom was filled with confidence. Everyone's fighting spirit was actually roused. Go. Go, Qin Guang. Gaoya seemed to have a screw loose in her brain as she clenched her fists and shouted. The others did the same. The cheers in the classroom rose and fell one after another. Qin Guang was touched. "Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your trust. I won't let you down. Believe in me." He was about to grab his notebook. His right hand was injured, so he raised his left hand. "Shaolin, can you uncuff me first? How am I supposed to prepare like this?" Lin Jingwei nodded heavily. At this moment, everyone was no longer worried that he would run away. Oh my god. I dropped the key. You're a fool who can't do anything right. Because Lin Jingwei had made a rare mistake, he had wasted another 10 minutes of precious time. There was no way he could find the key, and he wasn't Zhang Shichao anyway. Luckily these were prop handcuffs. The material and workmanship were not that exquisite. Xiong'er, who had brought lunch, picked up a pebble by Yuanming Lake and broke the thin, inferior metal chain in the middle. The remaining half of the chain looked like a bracelet, but it was rather shabby. In the end, Qin Guang did not prepare in front of everyone. Instead, he took the paper, the professional English dictionary, and the pink, heart-shaped electronic dictionary that Sun Xiaoxuan gave him. He ran to Yuanming Lake alone. He had already kept it a secret until now, so Qin Guang felt that he could not let it go to waste. There was also another risk. Although what he had said just now was very high and mighty, there was actually nothing substantial at all. But if that group of people found out before the official academic exchange that he really did have that ability, and that he was just pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger, then he would be beaten black and blue on the spot by that group of people. For the sake of personal safety, he should maintain the mystery until the very last moment. When the matter was settled, he would tell the truth in the name of hiding it from Fatty Wang. Then he would tell everyone about Fatty Wang's real conspiracy. Needless to say, Fatty Wang would be the scapegoat no matter what. Sitting alone on a chair by Yuanming Lake, Qin Guang carefully scanned the valuable paper. Whenever he found unfamiliar professional terms, he would immediately take notes in a small notebook next to him. His bandaged hand was still in pain from pulling the wound, but he had completely forgotten about it. He had really worked hard these past few days. He had almost gone through the thick stack of professional English vocabulary. Now he was sharpening his gun at the last minute. He picked out all the words that might cause him to screw up in order to memorize them. It could be said that they were well prepared. After he was done, he looked at the time. Oh, it was almost 8:30 p.m. He counted the unfamiliar terms in the notebook. There were not many, only around 30 or 40 words. This was a small case. After going through everything in his mind, Qin Guang stood up. It was time. F** King MIT. F** King Fatty Wang. I'm going to kneel. Chapter 129. The venue for the academic exchange was in the second conference room of the college building. There were no banners or red lanterns. After all, the other party was just an associate professor leading a group of undergraduate students. It was not that high of a standard. Even if you are from MIT in the eyes of ordinary students, but in the eyes of the leadership of Gokyo University, we will send people of the same level to receive the other party. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology is very impressive, but our Wujing University is also one of the top universities in the country. We can't prepare too much for an associate professor and ruin the reputation of our Wuxia University. Therefore, they directly sent Wang Ren, an administrative staff of the college, and Zhuo Jingxi, an undergraduate counselor, to be responsible for the reception. It was almost official enough. Of course, the graduate school should at least show up, but this time wasn't it Wang Ren who played a trick? However, this was not the effect that Wang Ren wanted to achieve. After spending a little effort, he actually managed to pull a vice president of the academy to the meeting. To put it nicely, he said that the leader would be personally present to boost the confidence of the young employees who had just started working not long ago. Of course, the deputy dean would not easily believe Fatty Wang's nonsense, but he really did not have anything else to do today. Wang Ren was also very respectful to him in the past. Although he felt that this guy was guilty, it was really difficult to refuse his hospitality, so he really followed him. When he entered the door, he even gave Zhuo Jingxi a few words of encouragement, then sat down on the deputy chair of the conference room, as if he really wanted to support Zhuo Jingxi. How could Zhuo Jingxi not understand Fatty Wang's cunning mind? Wasn't he hoping that she would fall a little harder this time? Teacher Zhuo, how is it? When are they coming? Qin Guang entered the conference room at about 8:45. As soon as he entered the door, he saw Fatty Wang and the deputy dean. He had some impression of sitting next to the chair. He frowned slightly but ignored Fatty Wang. Instead, he pulled Zhuo Jingxi and asked. Zhuo Jingxi looked at her watch. I just contacted Associate Professor Schmidt. They will arrive at 9 sharp. When did these two grandsons come? Qin Guang quietly pointed at Fatty Wang and the deputy dean next to him. Zhuo Jingxi rolled her eyes at him. What are you talking about? Don't talk about Director Han like that. Qin Guang snorted. Being so close to Fatty Wang, they must be jackals of the same lair. How can they be anything good? Wasn't their purpose for coming here simple enough? Aren't they just waiting to see us embarrass ourselves? Don't worry about them. If you're afraid of being affected, go to my office and rest. I'll get someone to call you over. I'll wait outside the academy building first. Forget it, I'll go help. Qin Guang shook his head and refused. Instead, he helped Sun Xiaoxuan by placing bottles of mineral water in every corner of the conference room. This squad leader's son really had a tiring life. The circles under his eyes were so dark that ink could be squeezed out, but he was still stubbornly holding on. It was 9 o'clock sharp, and the teachers and students of MIT, led by Schmidt, appeared outside the school building on time, neither too early nor too late. Zhuo Jingxi, who had been waiting here for a long time, immediately walked up and chatted with Professor Schmidt. The other party seemed to know Chinese etiquette very well. He didn't make any awkward gestures like hugging first when they met. He just shook hands with Zhuo Jingxi. Behind Schmidt were about a dozen young students, both male and female. They looked no different from the Chinese with noses and eyes. Zhuo Jingxi led them all the way inside and into the conference room. Wang Ren and Deputy Director Han stood up together and represented the academy to have a warm conversation with Schmidt as a form of welcome. As the student representative, Qin Guang was not in a hurry to be pushed to the front stage. It was Associate Professor Schmidt who went up to the podium and roughly explained the purpose of his team this time. Brother Guang, to be honest, I'm a little disappointed. Bai Nyangzi secretly looked at the group of foreign top students. He hid his hand under the table and pulled on Qin Guang's clothes. Qin Guang stepped on his foot and said, "Don't King interrupt my thoughts. I'm busy." Bai Nyangzi turned his head back with a disappointed face. He had a lot of thoughts but no one to share them with. What are you disappointed about? Although he didn't want to admit it, Qin Guang was indeed interested. Bai Nyangzi immediately became energetic and said, "I thought the top students from MIT looked scary. Now that I see them, they don't seem to be that big of a deal." Qin Guang rolled his eyes. He thought that this guy really had something to say, but he didn't expect him to talk nonsense. "What else? What do you think it should be? Did the people from MIT have to be monsters with 3 heads, 6 arms and 8 eyes? We're university students of the new era. Can't we have normal brain circuits?" Qin Guang and Bai Nyangzi were talking softly, but Associate Professor Schmidt didn't notice them. He was in high spirits as he introduced the purpose of his visit today. He took this group of students across the ocean to Gokyo University, with the aim of promoting cultural exchanges between the two schools. Gokyo University was one of the first schools in China that specialized in environmental science. It was a pioneer in this field in China. As a scientific research institution that pursued the true meaning of science, MIT also attached great importance to the teaching and research of environmental protection. Therefore, they hoped to learn from the teachers and students of Wuxia University to further understand the teaching and research situation of environmental protection in China. At the same time, he also wanted this group of undergraduate students to study under him in one of the most polluted countries in the world. Other than that, he also hoped to get to know the students of Gokyo University better. On behalf of MIT, he also welcomed the undergraduate students to the United States to apply for their master's degree. All in all, it was just a high-sounding speech, but it was all true. It didn't take him more than half an hour to clearly explain the purpose of his trip. The others might be a little confused. After all, Associate Professor Schmidt spoke too fast. However, Qin Guang understood every word. He couldn't help but secretly pout. "Friend, why do you sound a little strange? Why did you have to carry a gun and a stick out of nowhere? What do you mean by one of the most polluted countries in the world? Aren't you slapping us in the face? Although we can't deny it, we can't let a foreigner like you say it out loud, right? Also, why do I feel that you're arrogant in your words? Yes, MIT is great and impressive, but what I hear from you is that you're a superior inspecting your subordinates to see how they're doing. Don't look down on us." Chapter 130. At this point, Qin Guang was completely certain of one thing, and that was that this Associate Professor Schmidt had come all the way here for the unofficial visit that Zhuo Jingxi had mentioned before. This must have been the decision of this sturdy Caucasian old man in private, and not an official arrangement by the higher-ups of MIT. This was because the old man's words were too unpleasant to listen to. Zhuo Jingxi and Sun Xiaoxuan basically understood what he was saying, but they didn't hear the arrogance and conceit in Schmidt's words. Because they weren't like Qin Guang, who could always guess the intentions of the other party with extreme malice, they could see through the contempt hidden behind Schmidt's seemingly good-natured appearance. As for the other students, they were completely confused, and their minds were full of thoughts to find words that they could understand in Schmidt's words. Their minds turned for a long time, and finally they could only come to a conclusion. Damn, the words that I can understand are actually all from junior high school textbooks. After entering high school, they had almost forgotten everything they learned. It was impossible for them to comprehend the deeper meaning of the words. As the deputy dean of the school, Deputy Director Han was indeed an old-fashioned person. His English was not bad and his administrative skills were top-notch. He was the best at reading people's minds, and he could also hear that something was wrong. His expression didn't look too good, but he still squeezed out a smile, pretending to be good to everyone. The most nonsensical one was Wang Ren. This grandson was ignorant and incompetent. He clearly didn't understand a single word, but he had to nod his head like a hammer hammering a nail. His seat was very close to the main podium and Schmidt frequently nodded at him. Wang Ren felt proud of himself and nodded his head even more cheerfully. Schmidt thought that he was really a wonderful person, and he had a lot of fun making eye contact with Wang Ren during this half an hour. How could Deputy Director Han not understand that Schmidt was looking at Wang Ren with a smile on his face? It was obvious that he was looking at a fool. When Schmidt finally finished, Deputy Director Han couldn't help but poke Wang Ren's waist. "Little Wang, your brain is so good, can you understand what he's saying?" Wang Ren smiled smugly at President Han. "President Han, I'll tell you the truth. I don't understand." "Then why the hell are you nodding your head?" President Han was defeated by his poor and smug look. Chen Guang hid in the crowd and watched Wang Ren's idiotic performance. He didn't find it funny at all. It was so embarrassing. By the time Schmidt finished, it was time for Chen Guang to make his appearance. Chen Guang was quick and efficient. He took the thesis and walked onto the stage. As he stood next to the podium, the huge conference room suddenly became silent. The whole class held their breath, as if they didn't even dare to breathe heavily, for fear that their breathing would disturb Chen Guang. Even Sun Xiaoxuan, Lin Jingwei, and the others who had been given a boost by Chen Guang, were still thinking of Chen Guang's tragic scene of kneeling in front of the level 4 gate. They only hoped that the gods would bless them, and that the heavens would send down a bolt of lightning, so that Chen Guang would become an English expert on the spot. Although Zhuo Jingxi was confident in her heart, she couldn't be at ease until the dust settled. What's more, Wang Ren was still pulling Vice President Han to sit below the stage. If something really happened, she would immediately explode. Looking at Chen Guang, Wang Ren wore a profound smile on his face. He was truly curious to see what Zhuo Jingxi could achieve by throwing away the jar. "Brat, you want to stand up for Zhuo Jingxi? You can't even pass the level 4 exam. What right do you have to stand on this stage and be the main speaker? I arranged this matter for your class because I know that no one in your class can take it." Wang Ren turned his eyes to Zhuo Jingxi proudly. He wanted to see Zhuo Jingxi's expression of despair. Strange? Wang Ren was even more puzzled. Although Zhuo Jingxi was indeed very nervous at this time, with her hands clasped tightly in front of her chest and her pair of beautiful eyes staring at Chen Guang, in addition to nervousness, there seemed to be more expectation in her eyes? That's impossible. Where did her confidence come from? Wang Ren's seat was very close to the main podium. He glanced at the speech script in Chen Guang's hand and saw that it was densely printed in Chinese. He almost couldn't help but laugh out loud. This group of people must be joking, right? Letting this idiot Chen Guang run up to the stage with a thesis in Chinese? Do you want to learn from Schmidt and use your mother tongue to talk? Although the whole world is promoting Chinese, this doesn't seem right, right? Zhuo Jingxi, is this your idea? In Chinese? Do you think you can fool us with this? Do you think we're all idiots? When something happens, I'll see how you explain it to the dean. Schmidt and his students were even more puzzled. They didn't understand what was going on. They thought that this little boy was a great person, and these people's reactions were too strange. Although they didn't know what was going on, human emotions were indeed infectious. The group of international friends all held their breath. Looking at the solemn atmosphere, Chen Guang first picked up the script, then grinned at the audience and suddenly began to speak. Chen Guang's current accent could not be described as fluent. As he opened his mouth, pure English with a medieval accent came out one by one. Sun Xiaoxuan and Bai Nyangzi suddenly widened their eyes and mouths. They could only stare blankly at Chen Guang, who was speaking to the Chinese thesis on the stage. Confused, crazy, broken down. They were greatly frightened, and they even began to doubt their lives. They didn't understand what happened to Chen Guang at all. He on the podium was too strange, too strange. A person who had basically gotten all of the level 4 mock questions wrong was facing a professional paper on environmental science written in Chinese. He was speaking in an authentic medieval British gentleman's accent fluently and eloquently. Even when he was excited, he would dance from time to time to deepen his emotions. Translating from Chinese to English on the spot didn't seem to pose any difficulty or obstacle to him. It was as simple as eating and drinking water, casual. At least, Schmidt and his students who were sitting on the other side were listening with great interest. From time to time, they would raise their hands and get up to interrupt Chen Guang to discuss certain issues with him. Chen Guang was very patient every time to answer any of the other party's questions, and he was able to give satisfactory answers, which made the other party nod and sit down again. What the hell? What a big ghost. He really wasn't talking nonsense, he was really talking about a thesis. Chapter 131. Everyone in the environmental science class was at a complete loss. Maybe they overslept last night and hadn't woken up yet? Are we still dreaming right now? Finally, Xiong said something in a muffled voice, which roughly summed up everyone's mood. Although I don't understand what he's saying, he seems really good. This bastard, he's hiding it too deep, too deep. Sun Xiaoxuan's English foundation was the best, so she understood Chen Guang's statement clearly. In front of her was another copy of the paper. She understood that Chen Guang's impromptu English level was really terrifying. She pressed her hands on her thighs and squeezed them tightly. Her exquisite beautiful eyes stared at Chen Guang, and she almost stopped breathing. I knew it. You really didn't lie to me. You really are this good. Chen Guang, you never let me down. Chen Guang, who was on the stage, saw all the expressions of the audience. When he noticed the shocked faces of Bai Nyangzi and the others, Chen Guang's heart was so happy that it could be described as sweet to the point of sadness and madness. Let me ask you guys, how is the old man's English? Are you convinced? Are you scared? Are you panicking? From today on, no one in this world can stand in front of me, point at my nose and say, look. It was none other than Chen Guang, who had suffered 5 consecutive defeats. You guys have to say, that's more Li Yang than Li Yang, more Jin Dongfang than Jin Dongfang, the king of English, Chen Guang. Zhuo Jingxi's performance was not much better than Sun Xiaoxuan's. She almost couldn't hold back her tears from the excitement. Thank God. His performance was amazing. It was better than he had imagined. He could actually express such a Chinese paper in English so fluently on the spot, and he didn't make any mistakes in the professional vocabulary that I was most worried about. He really tried his best for me. Zhuo Jingxi stared fixedly at Chen Guang, who was constantly showing off on the podium. Her mind was in a daze as she recalled the feeling when she was ambushed by him that day. But this time it was his heart that felt warm, not his buttocks. Deputy Director Han did not know what kind of reputation Chen Guang had for English in this class. When Wang Ren recommended this class to take on the job, he thought there might be students with good English in this class. However, he was still shocked. He looked at Chen Guang with an appreciative smile on his face. He felt that this young man was really not bad and had great potential. Although Wang Ren always used his uncle's help from time to time to do some bullsh*t things in the academy, he did a pretty good job this time. Schmidt and the others didn't know why the teachers and students of Gokyo University were behaving so strangely, as if they were very surprised. But on second thought, this young student's spoken English was indeed very good, even more authentic than them, the authentic Americans. From Schmidt's point of view, this young man's spoken English could even be regarded as an art of language. Linguistics was not only in Chinese but also in English. Although Schmidt did not specialize in English linguistics, he had a wide range of academic interests and made a lot of friends. One of his friends happened to be the world's top linguist in this field, and he often acted as a language consultant for some large-scale medieval blockbusters, such as Pirates of the Caribbean. Schmidt felt that this young man's spoken English was full of medieval European style, just like what his friend often said. As an associate professor, he even subconsciously felt that the young man standing in front of him was a gentleman from an ancient British family. Of course, the quality of the paper prepared by Gokyo University's undergraduate students was indeed high, which also amazed him. He felt that he had underestimated Gokyo University before coming here. In the vast Huaxia there were many hidden talents. It was really scary that there was such a talented undergraduate student in Gokyo University. Schmidt was caught off guard and he subconsciously felt ashamed. Among the people present, there was only one person with a rotten face, as ugly as if his parents had died. That person of course was Wang Ren. Before coming here, even before Chen Guang really opened his mouth, Wang Ren was very sure that this time, Zhuo Jingxi was going to be in big trouble, and she was going to embarrass herself. Previously, after inquiring about Chen Guang's name, Wang Ren was very much looking forward to it. He really wanted to see how this arrogant student who dared to talk back to him would be embarrassed in public. He only treated the whole thing as a big joke. This big joke would only have 2 main characters. One was Zhuo Jingxi, the other was Chen Guang, and he, Wang Ren, could only be the real person behind the scenes with vested interests. The reason why he brought Vice Dean Han here was to let this Vice Dean, who had real power in the school, see Zhuo Jingxi's embarrassing appearance with his own eyes. He wanted Vice Dean Han to directly lose face in front of his international friends. This way Zhuo Jingxi could forget about making a comeback in the school in the future. If you still want to be put in an important position, you must go through my Wang Ren's hands-on support. If you are still not convinced, then I will make use of this matter to make a big deal out of it, and make you, Zhuo Jingxi, completely lose face and dignity. But now he was completely confused. He suddenly came to realize that he was the biggest joke of all. No wonder Zhuo Jingxi seemed to have become a different person in just a few minutes after returning. It turned out that not only was Chen Guang's English not low, it was actually high to this extent. He said it in Chinese just like that. And in English. This is not the plot I wanted at all. I have been played. Looking at the satisfied expression on Vice Dean Han's face, Wang Ren felt as uncomfortable as if he had eaten a fly. He had put in a lot of effort, and even risked the possibility of being blamed by the higher-ups after this matter was messed up, to push Zhuo Jingxi onto the gallows in his heart. In the end, my gallows actually became a stage for Chen Guang's one-man show? No matter how much pain Wang Ren felt, how uncomfortable and how speechless he was, he could only grit his teeth, swallow his blood, and from time to time had to cooperate with Vice Dean Han, who kept nodding at him. What made Wang Ren most uncomfortable was that Vice Dean Han thought he had the same opinion as him, nodded and said, "Not bad, this student named Chen Guang is really not bad. What do you think, Wang Ren?" Wang Ren gritted his teeth and could only squeeze out a sentence from between his teeth. "I think so too, really not bad." Little Zhuo's working ability is also very strong. She has just taken over this class, and she has already unearthed a talent for our school. Vice Dean Han added salt to the wound again. Wang Ren squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying. "Yes, I also think quite highly of her." "Little Wang, are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere?" Vice Dean Han continued to add salt to the wound. Wang Ren lightly hammered his chest. "It's nothing, I think I didn't sleep well last night, a little angina." "What a heartache." "I, Wang Ren, never thought that I, Wang Ren, would be pecked in the eye by a goose. This wedding dress that I made for Zhuo Jingxi, this time it is inlaid with gold and silver. I have become the reincarnation of Lei Feng." Chapter 132. The academic exchange meeting ended at around 12:30 in the afternoon. Of course, everyone was happy except for Wang Ren. By the time Zhuo Jingxi, Vice Dean Han, and Wang Ren sent Schmidt and his students out of the academy building, the meeting room had already been turned upside down. "Damn you, Chen Guang. You've kept us in the dark." Sun Xiaoxuan's voice rang out. "Brother Guang, think about it carefully. You've made us worried for the past few days. Hurry up and think of a way to make it up to us." Bai Nyangzi was indeed a pushover. Gaoya slapped Chen Guang's back hard. "Did you know?" Xiaoxuan started crying when she got up this morning to wash her face. She's still blaming herself for not being able to make an English version. "You have to give us an explanation. Why did you hide it from us?" "That's right. We can't help you this time either." "Gaoya is right. I support all of you." Lin Jingwei shouted. Chen Guang was completely disappointed in Lin Jingwei. If Gaoya said *T smelled good, you would definitely smell it and nod your head, right? In the huge conference room the crowd was really excited. Of course everyone was just joking. Although everyone looked like they wanted to beat Chen Guang to death, their faces were brimming with smiles. Now that they thought about it, they initially thought that they would fail in the end. But who could have imagined that Chen Guang, who was once trash in English, would stand out to turn the tide? Everyone's hard work did not go to waste. They did not embarrass the Chinese people in front of the top students and the associate professor of MIT. This kind of wholehearted effort and finally success was the most satisfying thing. Everyone couldn't help but be unhappy. Chen Guang could also see that they were not really angry. After all, heroes were judged by success and failure. The old man had indeed saved the world today. But, aren't you guys a little too king heavy-handed? My kidneys are about to fall out. This is a grudge. No, I have to save myself. He abruptly jumped onto the podium again and slammed the blackboard brush, using it as a gavel. "Silence. Silence everyone. I have something to say." "Go ahead, we're listening." At the critical moment, it was Xiong'er, the simple-minded fellow, who stood up to help Chen Guang. Chen Guang gave him a thumbs up as a sign of praise. "I'll add a drumstick to your lunchbox when we get back. It won't be too late to beat him up after listening to him." Xiong'er scratched his head and said honestly, "Oh my god, the chicken drumstick is gone. There was no more food. I will flatten your lunchbox. The old man was unhappy. As the savior, what kind of attitude was this? Show some respect to the savior. Let me ask you one thing. Think back to the time when you mocked me for not being able to pass the 4th level. How arrogant were you? How excessive. My fragile little heart has been trampled by you over and over again, and it has been trampled to the point of being broken into pieces. I purposely hid it from you. I wanted to give you a big surprise today. Now think again, look again. Do you feel that your faces are in pain? Did I slap your faces until they are swollen? Don't you feel ashamed? Since you are heartless, don't blame me for being unjust. Originally, I didn't want to go all the way with this face-slapping plan, but you forced me to do it. If I had a choice, I would also want to be a good person, but you didn't cherish the opportunity. Beat him up. Although the price of courting death was painful, Qin Guang's heart was indeed full of joy. 3 whole years of humiliation. Every time someone speaks English, I can't raise my head. I was almost stuck on the pillar of shame. Today, I finally have a chance to turn things around, so how can I restrain myself? Also, luckily I protected my face, so the loss isn't too big. It's barely acceptable. But after the commotion, Qin Guang lowered his voice and told everyone the ins and outs of the matter. Only then did everyone understand that he was deliberately hiding it, not to make everyone worry for no reason, but because he had other plans. Everyone immediately forgave him. That's right, how could our family's master Qin Guang's character be so bad? Let's put it this way. Although I trust everyone, no one here will take the initiative to tell that damn fatty Wang Ren. But I, Qin Guang, suddenly have such a high level of English, it's also a very domineering and cool thing. I'm just afraid that some of my brothers and sisters will accidentally spill the beans when chatting with people from other departments. If it reaches Wang Ren's ears, he'll make some trouble for me. If I can't come today, then wouldn't this matter be completely over? Teacher Zhuo just started working and she already fell down like this. What can she do in the future? Fatty Wang, this scum, is very poisonous. Qin Guang only said a few words lightly, but Fatty Wang immediately took the blame. Of course, what Qin Guang said was not a single word of falsehood. In the academy, Wang Ren really did have such a reputation. *CK. Wang Ren, this scum. I can't stand it anymore. I'm going to beat him to death. Xiong was really irritable. He was the first to jump out. I thought he really restrained himself. No, I absolutely can't let this bastard continue to harm the girls in our academy. Save it. Save it. You still have a big mistake on your record. If you spit on him, it'll be enough for him to expel you. Qin Guang and the others hurriedly pulled him back. Xiong exploded and roared, if I expel him, then I'll expel him. I don't want to go to this broken school anymore. I'm afraid of him. I'm a fierce tiger by Mudanjiang. I've never been afraid of anyone. Hee, when the first semester started, we saw your father. He's Wusong by Mudanjiang, your father, Xiong. At the mention of his father, Xiong immediately became quiet. If he really got expelled and went back to his hometown, his father would definitely hang him on a tree and beat him to death. But we can't let him act so unscrupulously. Xiong was so angry that he said idioms. Lin Jingwei frowned at the side as if he was thinking of an idea. Gaoya silently ran to the podium and pulled out a black stick. It was the kind of stick used to point on the blackboard during lectures. I don't have any punishment on me. I'll go beat him a few times. After a lot of noise, Gaoya was finally stopped. Alright, you guys calm down. This kind of thing isn't something we students can handle. What we can do is protect Teacher Zhuo. Everyone understand? People like Wang Ren are righteous. Sooner or later he'll get what he deserves. But we have to be more rational when we do things, understand? Qin Guang, who was known as the Great Master, actually turned around and tried to persuade others. What are you guys whispering about? It's so noisy. Not a single one of you is proper. Oh, speak of the devil. Wang Ren, Vice President Han, and Zhuo Jingxi actually came back at this time. The one speaking in a weird tone was none other than Wang Ren. Chapter 133. Immediately, the boys and girls took action and held down Xiong and Gaoya, not giving them a chance to show off their skills. Of course, everyone's actions weren't very obvious. They just placed their hands on the two from all directions. Qin Guang also tried his best to signal the two with his eyes, telling them not to act rashly. Then he raised his eyebrows and whispered, "Don't worry, watch me. I'll deal 10,000 points of damage to him without a drop of blood. I guarantee it'll be more painful than beating him up." Everyone looked at Qin Guang's strange expression and remembered his miraculous method of turning the impossible into the possible. They believed him. Then Qin Guang turned around and walked toward Zhuo Jingxi and the other two. Wang Ren saw that no one cared about his outburst. Moreover, the way the students looked at him was very strange. He immediately guessed that Qin Guang must have said something he shouldn't have. Therefore, his already ugly expression became even more gloomy. It was as if a layer of cumulonimbus clouds had covered his face, ready to rain and thunder at any time. However, today's incident was a good thing for the academy. Vice Dean Han, whom he had prepared to deal a fatal blow, was praising Zhuo Jingxi. Wang Ren knew that he had to endure it. I'll endure it. I'll accept my loss today. However, this matter would not end like this. Just as Wang Ren was thinking about this, he looked up and saw Qin Guang walking toward him with a meaningful smile on his face. Director Wang, you asked us what we were mumbling about just now. Qin Guang stood in front of Zhuo Jingxi and the other two and grinned, revealing his white teeth. Wang Ren really wanted to say that he didn't want to know. However, Qin Guang chuckled. We were just saying that this year's environmental engineering students are really lucky to have met such a good leader of the academy. Especially Director Wang, we're so grateful to him. On behalf of all the boys and girls in our class, I would like to thank you, Director Wang. Qin Guang chuckled and ignored Zhuo Jingxi, who was constantly signaling him with her eyes. Instead, he stared at Wang Ren and said word by word. Although he was thanking Wang Ren, there was no smile on his face. Instead, there was a hint of mockery that only Wang Ren could understand. How could Zhuo Jingxi not understand what Qin Guang was trying to do? Her vision darkened, but on second thought, with that brat Qin Guang's temper, he had already gone against Wang Ren before he had even completed his task. Now that he had achieved success, if he didn't viciously disgust Wang Ren, he would no longer be him. Forget it, I hope he can control himself a little and not go overboard. A debt of gratitude? Wang Ren was disgusted by this word. Who the hell wants to be indebted to you? Did you really just say that? Or are you trying to fool? But since Qin Guang said it like this, he really had to respond. Classmate Qin Guang, you're too modest. It's mainly because you've worked hard. Vice Principal Han really liked this student very much. Not to mention that he was brimming with talent, he was actually not arrogant at all. He had some achievements, but the first thing he wanted to do was to thank the leader. He was really a great talent. Today's morning was really not in vain. Therefore, Deputy Director Han smiled like a big peony in full bloom. He was very excited and patted Qin Guang's shoulder. He said heavily, Qin Guang, you're very good, very good. I hope that in the future in your studies, you will not be arrogant and impatient, and continue to work hard. I have high hopes for you. Xiaozhua is also not bad. I'm very satisfied with your work. In this month's performance evaluation, I will personally give you a big A. I really didn't expect that because of Xiao Xin's illness, we pulled you over to be a firefighter. We pulled out a talent. Zhuo Jingxi was embarrassed by Deputy Director Han's praise. She just waved her hand and said, Deputy Director Han, you're too kind. I'm just working hard to complete the task assigned by the leader. I don't deserve it, I don't deserve it. On the other side, Qin Guang turned his face to Deputy Director Han and smiled. From the long period of observation just now, coupled with Deputy Director Han's attitude at this time, Qin Guang understood that this old man was really not jackals of the same tribe as Wang Ren. I've misunderstood you. Deputy Director Han, your words are too serious. Although we are indeed proud of what happened today, we don't dare to take the main credit. This is all thanks to Director Wang. It was Director Wang who stood up against the majority and gave us the task that should have been assigned to the graduate school. We only have this opportunity. We really have to thank Director Wang. It was him who was willing to trust all the students in our environmental science class and our teacher Zhuo. He stood up against the majority and gave us this opportunity that others could only dream of. We can win glory for the school. Director Wang. We really thank you. Thank you. Qin Guang turned his head and said the last half of the sentence to Wang Ren. Every word was like a detonator exploding from his mouth. His spittle sprayed all over Wang Ren's face. This bastard. He did it on purpose. Wang Ren's head was burning. He clenched his fists so tightly that the veins on his hands were popping. He really wanted to jump up and punch Qin Guang's smiling face. At this moment, Deputy Director Han, who was next to him, suddenly patted his shoulder. That's right. Xiao Wang, you have indeed made a great contribution in this matter. I'm ashamed to say it. When you said that little Zhuo would lead her class, my heart was really beating like a drum. I didn't even want to agree to it. It was really you, little Wang, who insisted that little Zhuo's class would definitely not be a problem. That's why I finally agreed. Now that I think about it, I'm also in a cold sweat. Fortunately, you insisted again and again. That's why I got to see such a good show today. I almost missed out on a talent. Very good. Keep up the good work. As Deputy Director Han said that, he patted Wang Ren's shoulder fiercely again and again. In his heart he thought that he had indeed blamed him wrongly. This Wang Ren had really turned over a new leaf. He even knew how to help a new employee who had just joined the workforce. Deputy Director Han felt a little guilty in his heart. He patted even harder. The way he looked at Fatty Wang was also full of praise and affirmation. He looked very comforted. Old Han's seemingly encouraging slap landed on Fatty Wang's shoulder again and again. However, it turned into invisible flying knives. They were the kind with barbs. They fiercely stabbed into Wang Ren's heart that was about to shatter. Deputy Director Han's words sounded like praise, but it was like a torrential storm of pear blossom needles. It pierced the pitiful Wang Ren's heart full of holes. Wang Ren wished that he could just fling his sleeves and leave. However, he was the one who dragged Deputy Director Han here. At this time he was still praising him. This cold face could not be shaken off. Even if his heart was already twitching in displeasure and anger, he still had to squeeze out a smile as if he was receiving a lecture. This hypocrisy was the most uncomfortable. In turn, it further deepened his resentment. This is not what King wanted. Chapter 134. It seemed that Vice President Han had not praised Zhuo Jingxi enough. He slapped his head again and said, "Oh yes, little Zhuo, there is another thing. I didn't consider you at first, but now I think you can fight for it. Next month, the Youth League Committee will add a new officer. You have a strong working ability, a doctoral student, and a high understanding. You can give it a try." This kind of words, coming from Vice President Han's mouth, was almost equivalent to a clear statement of support. Zhuo Jingxi was overjoyed. Wang Ren was completely furious. Zhuo Jingxi had only joined the work for a short time. If she really went with this wind and rushed into the Youth League Committee, her wings would be completely hard. How could he carry out his work in the future? I went for wool and came home shorn. I suffered a bit too much. It was not a big deal. It was nothing more than a failure in the calculation. But the process and the result were so painful that Wang Ren could not bear it. What he hated the most was Chen Guang, this kid. He was unforgiving and knew how to disgust people. From the beginning, every word this guy said was to disgust him and embarrass him. He even brought Vice President Han into his trap, turning him into a knife in his hand, fiercely slashing at his heart again and again. But Vice President Han was completely unaware of it. Chen Guang's actions further magnified the resentment in Wang Ren's heart. Looking at this guy who wanted to kill someone but had to hold it in, the smile on Chen Guang's face became wider and wider. He put his hands behind his back and silently made an okay gesture to Sun Xiaoxuan and the other students. Everyone almost laughed out loud. Finally, Wang Ren's eyes suddenly turned white, his body went limp, and he almost fell down. Chen Guang hurriedly added, "Director Wang, what's wrong with you? Are you not feeling well? You have to take care of your dragon body. How can the students of our school live without you?" Wang Ren slammed his fist on the door frame of the conference room next to him, startling Zhuo Jingxi and Vice President Han. Zhuo Jingxi knew that Chen Guang was about to make Fatty Wang collapse on the spot. She quickly reached out from the side and pulled Chen Guang's clothes, asking him to restrain himself a little. Before Deputy Director Han could speak again, Wang Ren said in a muffled voice, "I'm fine. I've been controlling my diet recently and my blood sugar is a little low. I'm not feeling too well. You guys chat, I'll take my leave first." With that, he suddenly turned around and left. He was afraid that if he continued to waste time like this, he would really lose control of his emotions. After Fatty Wang walked far away, Deputy Director Han scratched his bald head blankly. That's strange. Wasn't he suffering from angina just now? Why is it hypoglycemia again? After praising Vice President Han for a while, the old man finally left. Zhuo Jingxi was young after all, and she even had the opportunity to become a committee member. Unable to contain her excitement, she clenched her fists tightly in front of everyone. Yup. When the other students saw what she was doing, they followed suit and started to do the same. Chen Guang looked at everyone with a face full of smiles, but a haze flashed in his eyes. When Fatty Wang left just now, the look in his eyes as if he wanted to skin him alive, was too obvious. Chen Guang knew that this matter was not over yet. It gave him a slight headache. Why wasn't I the male protagonist in some cool and awesome urban novel? This kind of weak villain should be on his face at any moment, then tear his hands into 18 pieces in front of everyone, and then roar at the sky, "Those who submit to me will prosper, those who oppose me will die." Whoever dares to make me unhappy, I'll kill his entire family. Then Fatty Wang's backer popped out. Qin Guang, I want your entire family to die. Then I waved my hand, and a certain high-ranking official with great power stepped on a five-colored auspicious cloud and descended from the sky, becoming my Master Guang's prop to show off. He gave me a license to kill on the spot and pulled over 100 military vehicles, lining them up in a row in the area where Fatty Wang's blood was splattered. Who dares to touch my little brother Qin Guang? I'll kill him. Thus, the 5 Jing police were shocked, the political world was shaken, and the business world was shocked. It turned out that in this inconspicuous Gokyo University, there was actually such a big shot. Although I don't know which hidden aristocratic family's descendant he is, with such a high-ranking military official supporting him, he will definitely become an influential figure in the vast land of Wuxia in the future. This person cannot be offended. Even if he kills one person a day 3 days in a row, he will still be given a medal, a banner, and praised for his good kill. The law is set by him and the heavenly Tao is in his hands. From then on, my Master Guang will naturally walk on the path of a generation's king of acting tough, the proud dragon who will die if he stares at someone. The above are all Master Guang's indignant thoughts, and they are of no use at all. Your humble servant can't do it. But at this moment, when everyone is excited and happy, there is no need for him to voice out his worries and spoil everyone's mood for no reason. As for Fatty Wang's possible revenge, Qin Guang is not afraid. Although he has all kinds of nicknames in the academy, there are indeed not many black marks that Fatty Wang can use to make an issue out of. As long as he is upright and walks straight, he is naturally not afraid of petty people thinking about him. That night, Zhuo Jingxi also spent a lot of money. She forked out her own money and brought the entire class of 30 people to the buffet outside the school to have a hearty meal. Every person is 50 yuan, and the total amount is close to 2,000 yuan, which almost used up the rest of her salary for this month. But Zhuo Jingxi does not feel the slightest bit of heartache. She only cares about being happy. At the dining table, Qin Guang, the main contributor, almost became the target of everyone's drinking. Of course, his method of blocking the alcohol is also very good. He only raises his hand lightly. Do you see this meat dumpling that is wrapped tightly? My wounds are not healed yet, so I can't drink. I am now a glorious driver, so I must remember the principle of never driving after drinking. Even if I don't drive, I won't drink. I refuse to drink. Every single moment. Don't try to persuade Qin Guang to drink. He's injured, so he really can't drink. Sun Xiaoxuan, who was standing at the side, could not stand it anymore. He also stood up to speak up for Qin Guang, and even pulled Gaoya, who was in high spirits. Yo, the two of you haven't even gotten married yet. Xiaoxuan, it's too early for you to side with him. Gaoya changed the topic and turned her head to tease Sun Xiaoxuan. Lin Jingwei said, That's right. Gaoya is right. The crowd made a ruckus, and the already small buffet hot pot restaurant became a mess. Zhuo Jingxi was so embarrassed that she ran to the boss again and again to apologize. When it was about 9 o'clock, everyone finally staggered back to school. Qin Guang did not touch a single drop of alcohol, but Xiong drank a lot. However, his body was strong, so Qin Guang and Lin Jingwei had to carry him on each shoulder. Their faces were green from the weight. However, this guy was not obedient. As he was being supported, he shouted, I'm not drunk. I'm really not drunk. Let go of me. I can really drink another 2 ounces. At least 2 ounces. Yes, 2 ounces. At least 2 ounces. You don't believe me? Look at my fingers. I can clearly count how many fingers I have on my hand. That proves that I'm not drunk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As soon as they entered the school gate, they felt the strange gazes from both sides. Qin Guang and Lin Jingwei wanted to hide their heads in their clothes. It was so King embarrassing. By the way, why didn't Rin Yuan and the others come? Xiong was a smart guy. He actually asked this. Lin Jingwei said nonchalantly, I went to inform them, but they didn't come. Maybe it's because of Pan Zhang's incident that they feel embarrassed. Who cares what they're doing? I've already informed them anyway. In the end, Qin Guang did not send Xiong all the way to the dormitory. Instead, he called Zhuo Jingxi downstairs. It turned out that Zhuo Jingxi suddenly remembered that she was so happy that she forgot everything else and had not changed Qin Guang's dressing. Despite Qin Guang's insistence that his wound was mostly healed and that he didn't need to change his dressing and even intended to remove the bandages tonight, Qin Guang still couldn't accept it. However, Zhuo Jingxi firmly disagreed. She insisted that he follow her to the office in the school building to change the dressing. She even said that she bought a new medicine that could effectively prevent scars. Although Qin Guang was disdainful, he felt that as a man, having a scar on his hand was a sign of dominance. Why would he need to remove a scar? However, Zhuo Jingxi was a teacher and a counselor. She had the final say. He could not change her mind. Chapter 135. I have a feeling that Wang Ren won't let this go. On the way, Zhuo Jingxi couldn't help but say this. Calling Qin Guang over to change his dressing was one reason, but the other reason was that she was still brooding over this. When the joy of success gradually calmed down, Zhuo Jingxi also thought of this. Qin Guang squeezed his fist a little harder, and the wound on his finger no longer hurt. He replied indifferently, "Of course I know that, but it doesn't matter. He can't just fire me because I'm too handsome, right? If he wants to pick a fight with me, he has to have a good reason, right?" Zhuo Jingxi felt defeated by him. "I'm serious. What are you sure about?" Qin Guang flicked his hair. "I'm serious too." When the two of them arrived near the school building, it was about 9:30 p.m. It was already dark and sparsely populated. After entering the academy building, the lights in the various offices and conference rooms were all dark, but only Vice Principal Han's office was still lit. Perhaps he had given another temporary task to the higher-ups, so he had to personally work overtime. Vice President Han is working hard. Qin Guang couldn't help but say this when the two of them entered Zhuo Jingxi's office. Zhuo Jingxi nodded. "Exactly. That's why I said this morning that you can scold Fatty Wang, but you can't scold Vice President Han. Vice President Han is one of the few senior leaders in our school. He didn't have any connections and relied on his own academic standards to get to where he is today. There are at least 30 to 50 doctoral students under his tutelage." Qin Guang only smiled. He thought that Teacher Zhuo was too naive. There were so many academic seniors in the school, but only he could become the vice president. There was no doubt about his academic standards, but he didn't believe that he didn't have other tricks up his sleeves. Whether he believed it or not, it had nothing to do with Qin Guang. Zhuo Jingxi carefully applied medicine to Qin Guang's wound while stealing glances at the little boy from time to time. In her heart, she was still thinking about Qin Guang's sloppy appearance when he ran out of the door that day. She felt a little strange and didn't know what was going on. From that day onwards, Qin Guang no longer had any flowery words or actions in front of him. He appeared to be like Zhou Wu Jingwang and all sorts of righteous people. To be honest, Zhuo Jingxi was not used to it. She didn't want to admit that she was looking forward to something that shouldn't have happened. She was just puzzled. Of course, Zhuo Jingxi had long seen through Sun Xiaoxuan's feelings for Qin Guang, and Gaoya had repeatedly pointed it out in front of her. Zhuo Jingxi often reminded herself in her heart, "I'm his teacher. I can't be stupid and do something like snatching a student's man, even though Qin Guang is really outstanding." However, when this change really happened to Qin Guang, Zhuo Jingxi felt a faint sense of loss in her heart. How could she have known that Qin Guang had been so cheeky and daring that he had even taken the initiative to take advantage of her, purely because she was too depressed because of Fatty Wang's scheme? Even if she had jumped out to save her life, she still wouldn't have been able to boost her morale. Qin Guang didn't have any other good ideas to enlighten her, so he simply came up with this bad idea of taking advantage of her to distract her. Now it seemed that the effect was not bad. Perhaps it was a little too good. Qin Guang also felt the strange atmosphere in the office. He was a little flustered and even subconsciously pinched his chin with his left hand to hide his panic. In the dead of night, a man and a woman are alone, but Teacher Zhuo had to call me to her office. Could it be? She's planning to be honest, I'm really moved. But this plot is developing too fast and I can't take it. Teacher Zhuo, at least give me a little time to calm down and let me think about it. At least give me 3 days. You directly made the plot so fierce, like a waterfall from Mount Lu rushing down 3,000 feet straight down. I'm a little caught off guard. Qin Guang secretly swallowed his saliva and couldn't help but sweep his eyes over Zhuo Jingxi. At this time she was lowering her head and bending over, concentrating on fiddling with Qin Guang's right hand. Qin Guang's gaze followed Zhuo Jingxi's neckline without any hindrance. That's right, this was the scene that Qin Guang had fantasized about when he was alone. This time his dream had come true. Zhuo Jingxi was 172 meters tall, and she was even more voluptuous than Wenwen. It was a hot summer, but she only wore a snow-white professional shirt and didn't button the top button. From this angle of view, the 2 full moons were exposed, and Zhuo Jingxi's sky-blue laced breastplate. It reminded Qin Guang of a scene when he was playing Dota. He controlled the void mask and suddenly cut in with a perfect big move, Big 5. Moreover, it was a perfect juxtaposition of two big moves of the void mask. It was also known as the double refresh ball. Alright, this was too profound. It was two semicircles of the time freeze ball, two sky blue hemispheres. This was too scary. This was more than just time freeze. Even the thought of me, the savior of the heavenly Holy Grail, was about to freeze. My physical body was also about to be frozen. Not good. The power that the old man had suppressed for a long time was about to go out of control again. She was so close now, and I was wearing thin Hawaiian shorts. If the dragon raised its head, the sky would definitely fall and the earth would crack, severely injuring her eyes and destroying my glorious image in her heart. What should I do? What could he do to suppress this terrifying desolate force? Chen Guang was burning with anxiety as he immediately shifted his gaze away and looked around Zhuo Jingxi's office. What was that? Why didn't I notice it before? In the corner of the office, next to the curtain, Chen Guang found a very interesting thing. It was not a thing but a set. It was a set of medieval knight armor. It looked quite new, and the workmanship was also quite good. The helmet and visor were quite exquisite. When flipped, it could completely cover the whole face. Awesome. It even had gloves. This workmanship, this thought, it was a high-end product. As a professional who had been in Big Beard Deng's crew, Chen Guang boasted that he knew the ropes. He was really attracted by this interesting thing. He could not help but imagine how it would feel when he wore this armor. It must be quite powerful and domineering, right? Amazing, really amazing. No matter who wore this, as long as they flipped the visor down, they would have an omnidirectional defense without any blind spots. This thing looked very valuable. Could it be that Teacher Zhuo was a rich second-generation kid who had been hiding his strength? I've underestimated you. Can I move it and sell it? Since we're friends, I'll do it. That's Teacher Shin's collection. He likes this kind of thing, so he didn't have time to take it with him. I thought it was in the way, so I moved it to the corner. It's so heavy that I'm exhausted. Teacher Shin already called me. In 2 days he'll ask someone to help him move it. Didn't you notice before? It seems that you haven't been to Teacher Shin's office in the past few years. Zhuo Jingxi noticed the look in Chen Guang's eyes. Chen Guang laughed. Why would I come to the counselor's office for no reason? It's not like I'm doing anything bad. It's actually Teacher Shin's stuff. I can't turn on begging mode. But this thing looks really good. Teacher Shin has good taste. I really want to try it on. Its defense is 8 streets better than Big Beard Deng's. Teacher Zhuo, I want to try it on. Can you take a few pictures of me later? I'll post it on my friend's circle to show off. Zhuo Jingxi tied the thin layer of gauze around Chen Guang's hand and frowned. This isn't very good, right? 30 minutes later. Hey, just like this. Raise your hand a little higher. That's right, that's right. It feels so cool. Chapter 136. Chen Guang, look at this one. It's so beautiful, just like the general in the Song of Ice and Fire. After clicking countless times, Zhuo Jingxi held her phone and waved it in front of Chen Guang, who was still wearing his armor. Although she said no, her body was honest. When the photo was taken, she was even more excited than Chen Guang himself. She looked like a little girl. Chen Guang lifted his visor and wiped his sweat. He thought that it was very handsome, but it was really stuffy. It turned out that there was a layer of skin inside the armor. It was airtight. Teacher Zhuo, I disagree with your sense of aesthetics. The photo you mentioned was taken when I covered my visor. It didn't show my face, so it's missing the biggest highlight. It's not the most handsome. Chen Guang was still very stubborn about his face. While the two were happily whispering, there was a sudden knock on Zhuo Jingxi's office door. Dong dong dong. It was the middle of the night. It was like a ghost. Little Zhuo, are you still inside? It's so late. You're still working overtime? Deputy Director Han's voice came from outside. Perhaps Deputy Director Han had finished his overtime work and came over to say hello. Fortunately, it was not a ghost. The two let out a long sigh. Then they looked at each other and saw an inexplicable fear in each other's eyes. Although there were no ghosts outside, there were ghosts in their hearts. Deputy Director Han was outside the door. This was not something to be happy about. Perhaps it was even more haunted? At this moment, in the dead of night, a man and a woman, a teacher and a student, sharing a room. If this situation was broken by Deputy Director Han, it would definitely be like yellow mud falling into his pants. Even if it was not sh*t, it was sh*t. He would not be able to wash himself clean even if he jumped into the Yellow River. Deputy Director Han waited for a while. There was no movement, so he knocked on the door again. Fortunately, he was much more polite than that damn fatty Wang Ren. He did not barge in without saying anything. Little Zhuo? Are you there? This young man, did he go home without turning off the lights? What a sloppy tiger. Forget it, I'll turn off the lights. I'll talk to him tomorrow. While talking to himself, Deputy Director Han opened the door. Your manners can only last for 10 seconds. Zhuo Jingxi turned her hand over and pulled on Qin Guang's mask. With a slap, she covered his face tightly. Then she turned around abruptly and smiled awkwardly at Vice President Han, who had just walked in. She even pretended to rub her eyes. Hey, President Han, I'm here. I'm about to open the door. Sigh, I was a little sleepy and fell asleep on the table. Sorry about that. At this moment, Qin Guang's hands were hanging by his side and his neck was straight like a zombie, not daring to move at all. Damn, I was scared to death. Sure enough, the older the ginger, the spicier it is. Teacher Zhuo hasn't been eating more rice than me for nothing. I give her full marks for her ability to improvise. This armor covers my entire body. As long as I maintain this posture and don't move, I will definitely not be seen through. Old Man Han will definitely treat me as the real armor. It was a sure win. Damn, it was really King hot. Deputy Director Han didn't suspect anything. He walked in 2 or 3 steps, smiled and said, Little Zhuo, you just started working. I understand your eagerness to get results, but don't work too hard. Especially you girls, you should pay more attention to the balance between work and rest. Zhuo Jingxi nodded repeatedly. Yes, thank you for your teachings, President Han. I will definitely remember. And that's good. Alright, about Wang Ren Sai, there are some things that I can't say clearly. Wang Ren, this person has indeed gone overboard. But this is the way of the world. We can't change others. We can only try our best to do our best. In short, don't worry. In this academy there are still people who understand. I will find a way to get you into the committee as soon as possible. No matter how hard Wang Ren's hands are, he won't be able to reach into the committee. Just hold on for now. I really think highly of you. Don't be discouraged and don't be resentful. You are a talent and you will eventually shine. These words seemed to be the real reason why Deputy Director Han had come so late today. Zhuo Jingxi nodded. Thank you, Deputy Director Han. What are you thanking me for? Your teacher and I have been best friends for many years. How can I not protect her student? In any case, if you really can't stop Wang Ren, come and find me. I will help you think of a way, Deputy Director Han said. Zhuo Jingxi grunted in agreement. Although she was touched, she was thinking, my Deputy Director, it's already so late. You're already so old. You should hurry back and rest. Then this matter ends here? Deputy Director Han asked again. And then, Zhuo Jingxi secretly panted. This old man was finally going to leave. Qin Guang was about to get sick from the heat, right? Qin Guang was also thanking the heavens. There was a spot on his, but that was itching. I really want to scratch it. Help. Alright, you are fiddling with this armor. Deputy Director Han suddenly said. Zhuo Jingxi was so scared that her body went limp. Qin Guang, on the other hand, almost fell on his back. Old man, I feel that there is more to what you said. Can you say it all at once? I was just planning to move it. The place where I live is very close to Little Shin's house. He asked me to help him bring it back. You know how much Little Shin cares about these things. However, this armor is very expensive. It would be too conspicuous to move it in broad daylight. It's just right now. Deputy Director Han said as he touched Qin Guang's shoulder armor. Then he used his finger to knock on the breastplate a few times. It's okay. It doesn't look very thick. It shouldn't be heavy. Qin Guang expressed that he hoped that Old Man Han would not finish his sentence. Also, can you stop knocking? I'm so nervous. Zhuo Jingxi looked at this scene and stared blankly with her almond-shaped eyes. She was completely confused and her brain stopped working. She could imagine how frightened Deputy Director Han would be when Qin Guang jumped out of the armor like Sun Wukong. Then what kind of psychological trauma would be left in this poor old man's heart? What was even more tragic was that as a talent who had just been determined, her short career seemed to be coming to an end. On the other side, Old Man Han had already bent down and hugged Qin Guang's waist. He used a little force and tried to lift it up. Zhuo Jingxi's face was already ashen. She gave up struggling. She was going to be exposed. My waist. Why is it so heavy? Old Man Han suddenly cried out in shock. His body stiffened. He used his hands to support his waist and stepped back. Oh my God, how can it not be heavy? There is a person inside. Zhuo Jingxi was pulled back to reality by Old Man Han's cry. She hurriedly went forward to support him. Are you okay? Old Man Han supported his waist and twisted slightly. It's okay. I'm old and underestimated this armor. I didn't use my strength well and it flashed a little. That's weird. Little Shin clearly told me it wasn't heavy. As he said that, he moved forward again. He still did not give up. Zhuo Jingxi finally came to her senses. She suddenly blocked in front of Old Man Han and said, "Deputy Director Han, don't waste your energy. Let me carry it." Deputy Director Han shook his head and waved his hand. "It's too heavy. You're a little girl. It's impossible. Why don't the two of us carry it?" "Carry it?" Zhuo Jingxi's face turned pale. She had persisted until now and had not been exposed. But if she carried it, she would definitely not be able to hold it. What should she do? What should she do? Qin Guang's face was full of tears. "Violi, quickly teach me a teleportation technique. My situation is a little too awkward." Chapter 137. Perhaps the god of brain teasers was favoring Zhuo Jingxi. She clapped her hands so hard that even old Han jumped in fright. "Dean Han, you can go to your office and rest first. I can move it over by myself. Of course it's too heavy to carry the whole thing. How could I dare to let you carry me? What if I really sprain your waist? Wouldn't I have committed a great sin today? I just thought about this thing and it can be taken apart. I'll do it alone, dismantle it and move it over. I just need to make 2 more trips." Zhuo Jingxi was determined not to let old Han touch the armor again. Deputy Director Han was very touched. Young people nowadays really knew how to sympathize with the elderly. He also felt that Zhuo Jingxi's idea was not bad. He thought to himself, "It just so happens that I haven't compressed the report and sent it out yet. That's fine too. This is my car key. It's the Buick MPV in the parking lot below. Hee, there are many children at home. It's more convenient to bring the whole family out to play in the MPV. It's also quite spacious to carry things." As he spoke, old Han took out his car keys and placed it in Zhuo Jingxi's hand. "Then I'll leave it to you. But don't try to show off. If you really can't open it, call me over to help you move it. I have a report to send to the Chinese Academy of Sciences, so I have to get back to work. It's getting late, and if I drive any later, I won't be able to see clearly." After sending old Han out, Zhuo Jingxi quickly but gently closed the office door. On the other side, Qin Guang had already lifted his visor and was panting heavily. "You scared me to death, you scared me to death." Zhuo Jingxi patted her chest, still in a state of shock. Qin Guang, on the other hand, was huffing and puffing. "I'm suffocating to death. Quick, help me take it off." Zhuo Jingxi shook her head vehemently. "You can't take it off here. Have you forgotten how troublesome it is to put this thing on? It took almost half an hour for you to put it on just now, and it will take at least 10 to 20 minutes to take it off. What if President Han comes over again and sees me taking off the armor from your body? What will he think? Wouldn't all our previous efforts be in vain?" Qin Guang nodded. "That makes sense. Then what should we do?" "What should we do? First, take off these iron shoes on your legs. While President Han's door is closed, you will wear your armor and go downstairs with me. Go directly to President Han's car, take off one piece and throw one inside. It won't be easy for him to see me taking off my clothes over there. I'll stand next to the car so I can be prepared in advance. Hurry up and hide in the bushes next to the parking lot after you're done taking off your clothes. Even if you haven't taken all of them off, you can hide them in the bushes when he comes. Just don't let him catch you." Qin Guang was overjoyed. As expected of Teacher Zhuo, "You've thought of everything." 20 minutes later, Qin Guang was lying in the back cabin of the Buick MPV, feeling the bumpiness of the car and the pain of being knocked by the armor on his body from time to time. He felt a little melancholy in his heart. In front of him, old Han was driving while wailing like a ghost and howling like a wolf. His entire body was sweating like rain, and Qin Guang's entire face was flushed red. If it wasn't for the benevolent old Han turning on the car's air conditioner, a cool breeze would sweep over from the back of the seat from time to time and blow on Qin Guang's face. Qin Guang felt that he was almost half-cooked. "Don't ask me why I'm here and why I'm in this situation. I really want to know why too. I just want to quietly think about how I'm going to face the rest of my life." Perhaps it wouldn't be long before old Han also had to think about this problem. After all, his singing was really a little unworthy of his poor car CD. Zhuo Jingxi's thoughts were completely correct. It was only this world that was wrong. The two of them had just sneakily run to the back cabin of old Han's car, and this old man had actually already finished sending the email and ran down. At this moment, Qin Guang had only taken off the pair of combat boots on his feet. Zhuo Jingxi's brain crashed once again. Women in the end were still not calm enough. Qin Guang's reaction was still fast. He slipped into the back cabin of the MPV, then silently curled up his body and laid down horizontally. Then, under Zhuo Jingxi's dumbfounded gaze, he gently and silently covered the visor. Chen Guang felt that the look in his eyes when he faced death with equanimity was definitely comparable to that of a brave warrior who dared to face death. After all, I've preserved the last bit of my spark, and until now I haven't exposed myself. Zhuo Jingxi silently placed the combat boots next to Chen Guang's face, then silently pulled down the back cabin cover. Then she turned to old Han, who was walking over, and put on a smile of success. Vice President Han, I moved everything here in one go. Just now, the armor was hanging on the side of the table leg. It's actually not that heavy. As she spoke, Zhuo Jingxi pretended to pat the dust off her palms and grinned. Vice President Han was amused. As expected of little Zhuo. We'll see the truth in the details. Although this isn't a big deal, your ability to adapt to the situation is really not bad. After taking the keys from Zhuo Jingxi, old Han drove away, leaving Zhuo Jingxi alone in the wind, at a loss as to what to do. Through the car window, looking at the dim yellow streetlights that kept receding, listening to old Han's heart-wrenching singing, Chen Guang thought of many things in his mind, but none of them were useful. I have no regrets in my life. That was my youth that turned to dust. That day in the God of Racing Cup, little Otto luckily escaped the tragedy of the nutrition pod in the God of Racing Cup by relying on the mosaic. But he could hide from the monk but not the temple. He could hide now but he could not hide forever. In the end he was still trapped in such an unlucky armor. After old Han drove the car to the underground parking lot, he only moved his head from the driver's seat to the back to take a look at the armor, but he did not touch it again. He only muttered to himself, let little Shin pick it up tomorrow, I won't carry it home. Then old Han got out of the car, locked the door, and the plateau red reverberated in the underground parking lot, gradually getting further and further away. After waiting for about 2 to 3 minutes, Chen Guang slowly straightened up, then with tears in his eyes, he painstakingly took off the armor on his body, piece by piece. His movements could not be stretched and it was really difficult to take off the armor. It took more than 20 minutes and Chen Guang felt like he was about to collapse, before he finally took off the last piece of armor. But this was not the end. He had to shrink his body, reassemble the armor, and return to the appearance he was lying down in. By the time he was done, it was almost midnight outside. Then Chen Guang finally crawled forward to the driver's seat, opened the door from the inside, and breathed in a breath of fresh air, blowing away the salt stains left by the dried sweat on his body. He felt that a 3-hour sauna was nothing more than this, right? When he went back and weighed himself, he would lose at least 3 kilograms. But he could not leave yet, so he waited in the same place for another 2 minutes. Finally, he heard the Buick MPV's door lock click, and it locked automatically. Only then did he dare to leave boldly. After 2 steps, he sat down weakly, leaning against the pillar of the underground parking lot. No, I have to rest. Oh my God, it really feels like I've died once. It's more difficult than fighting with people in the sea of fleeting time. I've only seen 2 of the Void Mask's big moves today, and this retribution has come a little too fiercely. He suddenly thought of something, picked up his phone and sent a text message to Zhuo Jingxi. You've successfully escaped, everything is fine, go to sleep peacefully. Although he said so, Chen Guang's exciting journey today was not over, because there was a bearded man in a security uniform standing in front of him, holding a strong flashlight and shooting it at his eyes. Kid, who are you? What are you doing here? Chapter 138. Chen Guang took a few deep breaths, slowly stood up, shook off the salt on his body, and tossed his head in what he thought was a confident manner. If I said I was here to look at the scenery, would you believe me? Roughly half an hour later, Chen Guang was finally released from the security office in this district. Thank God he had his student ID and ID with him. Once he explained his identity, he explained the English Premier League match that was being broadcasted on ESPN's English channel to these guys on the spot in the security office. In other words, he translated the ESPN commentator's extremely fast explanation into Chinese at an even faster speed. The security guards were immediately convinced, and didn't ask him how suspicious his actions were, nor did they try to get him to contact the Gokyo University teacher who lived in the neighborhood. With a shaken heart, Chen Guang walked out of the neighborhood, looked at the empty street outside and then looked at the time on his phone. Damn, it was already 1 in the morning and he felt even more melancholy. I pinched my fingers and calculated at this time, it would cost at least 180 kwai to take a taxi back to school from here. Forget it, I'll just take 2 steps forward and ask for help. But according to my years of experience as an internet driver at this time, normal drivers wouldn't accept an order from the city center to a suburban town like Wenxing Town, even if they knew that Gokyo University was there. Chen Guang didn't give up and sent out an order. Maybe he could meet some abnormal people in the same industry? After waiting for about 20 minutes, he knelt down. In the end, there are still more normal people in this world. He swung the ham in his hand and walked along the riverside path at the edge of the neighborhood to the main road. When he thought about how he could only take a green taxi and pay the ridiculous night fare and an unknown amount of return fee, he felt a faint sense of sadness in his heart. This was really the greatest shame of an internet driver's life. Just as he was feeling sad, a shout suddenly came from the river in front of him. Stop. Stop right there. It was a man's loud shout. Chen Guang leaned slightly to the other side of the road, wanting to see what was going on. If curiosity could really kill a cat, cats would have long gone extinct in this world. My Lord Guang doesn't believe in that. Along the riverbank they saw a tall, lean man leading the way, running wildly. In his hand, there was a cold glint that flickered under the illumination of the street lamp. It was clearly a murder weapon. Behind him, there were 7 or 8 people chasing after him desperately. Among the 7 or 8 people, 3 or 4 were in plain clothes, while the other 3 or 4 were in police uniforms. The police caught the thief. Chen Guang frowned and thought to himself, with my meddlesome personality, I'm afraid I won't be able to endure it. But I didn't take their salary nor did I eat their meals. The tall man in front of me looked very fierce. If I rashly made a move and cut this guy, wouldn't I suffer a huge loss? While he was hesitating, there was another change. In the bushes by the river not far in front of Chen Guang, a strong figure suddenly rushed out. Without making a sound, it was like a hungry tiger pouncing on the skinny man who was running for his life. The figure rushed out like lightning, but the skinny man was extremely vigilant. He nimbly moved to the side and counterattacked with the short knife in his hand. Seeing that the situation was not good, the skinny man took 2 steps back and barely avoided it. Chen Guang's eyes turned. Damn, based on my years of experience, this must be a policewoman. No, I can't make another move. There's already a damn policewoman in my life. If there's another one, my short life will probably be ruined. Wu Tong. Be careful. Just as Chen Guang was letting his imagination run wild, a male policeman in plain clothes who was 3 or 4 meters away from the skinny man suddenly shouted. It's okay. Don't come up. Leave this little bastard to me. The strong voice immediately responded but did not stop. He brazenly pulled out his baton and pounced on the skinny man again. Chen Guang was dumbfounded. What a coincidence. That woman is Wu Tong, and the man behind is Wang Long? Is this even possible? Wujing City is so big and there are tens of thousands of good citizens. It's already late at night and I accidentally came here. How could I bump into you? Big sister, it's a bit unreasonable of you to force the scene. In such a short period of time, Wu Tong and the skinny man had already determined the winner. Since the last battle with Brother Scar, Wu Tong had obviously put in a lot of effort. She used the upside-down part of the baton to knock the short knife out of the skinny man's hand. The skinny man lost his weapon and did not dare to fight again. He ran to the side, shook off Wu Tong and ran in the direction of the main road, which happened to be in the direction of Chen Guang. Chen Guang was happy. This man is really a wonderful person. Since the credit is delivered to my door, I don't want to take it. Anyway, I have no weapon in my hand. He just stood on the side of the road like a telephone pole, not moving a bit. He covered his face with his hands, looking like a frightened person who did not know the truth. The tall skinny man fled in panic, but he saw a young man in front of him. He shouted, "Get out of my way." Wu Tong, who was behind him, did not see Chen Guang's face clearly because of the light. She also shouted, "Get out of my way. He's a vicious robber." Chen Guang pretended to come back to his senses. He was very frightened, and moved to the side, but he did not let go of his hands that were covering his face. He said, Okay. Then, when the skinny man passed by him, he just silently stretched out his leg and tripped the man's foot. The unlucky robber fell straight to the ground. He rolled on the ground, endured the pain and quickly tried to get up. He cursed, "I'll remember you. Wait for me." Before his voice died away, Chen Guang suddenly rushed to the man's side like lightning. He lifted his leg and used the tomahawk kick from above. His heel aimed at the man's waist. This guy is really karma. He just threatened me and I'm done for. Chen Guang's kick was from a tricky angle and the force was fierce. It hit the man's vital point. No matter how vicious the criminal was, he would instantly lose all his ability to resist. Chen Guang's reaction was quite fast. Without thinking, he covered his face and ran in Wu Tong's direction. Quickly cover his eyes. I don't want him to remember my face. Wu Tong was stunned at first. Qin Guang? Then, she immediately realized that she was in the middle of a case. She said, "Wait for me." Then, the violent woman rushed to the front and handcuffed the tall skinny man tightly. She pressed her knee against his back and pressed him down. "Run? Where do you think you're going?" The man had just recovered from the pain from Qin Guang's kick. He knew that there was no way he could struggle today. He turned his head and desperately looked in Qin Guang's direction. He thought fiercely, this brat actually dares to act bravely for a just cause. Wait for me to come out. I'll let you go and I'll be a good person for the rest of my life. F***ck. This brat really knows his stuff. He must be my greatest enemy. Chapter 139. At this time, Qin Guang had already pulled up his sweaty shirt and covered the bridge of his nose, revealing only his eyes. He looked sinisterly at the tall, lean man who was pinned to the ground. His face was full of an expression that was asking for a beating. Come on, come hit me. When Wang Long passed by Qin Guang, he only gave him a slight look. Then, following Qin Guang's thoughts, he rushed forward, took out a black burlap bag and covered the wanted criminal's head. After everything was done, Wang Long and the others escorted the man away. Wu Tong used the excuse of resting to pull Qin Guang's butt to sit on a chair by the river. She interrogated him. You brat, why aren't you going back to school in the middle of the night? Why are you strolling by the river? What are you up to? Did you do something bad to a girl from a good family? Qin Guang glanced at her disdainfully. You should show some respect to good citizens who act bravely for a just cause. What kind of attitude is that? How dare you question my character? However, Qin Guang was thinking in his heart that he couldn't let her know the truth. After all, he wasn't the kind of person who would tell others about his misfortune. Anyway, I won't say it even if you beat me to death. You can guess however you want. Wu Tong pinched his shoulder in annoyance. I'm your sister, an elder. Of course, I have the right to control you. Bah. Since when did you become my sister? I don't acknowledge it at all. Qin Guang thought, if it weren't for the fact that I don't have a car and can't bear to spend money on a taxi, I would have waited for you to give me a lift back to Wenxing town. Who the hell would accompany you here talking nonsense? You just accept your fate. Anyway, what you said in Panjiang's ward that day, I admitted it all on the spot. Now you want to deny it? No way. Wu Tong chuckled. She loved to see Qin Guang fuming with rage, but there was nothing he could do about it. She felt that today was really fate. She went out to catch a thief and she followed him all the way to the city center. It was even in the middle of the night and she actually bumped into him. What made Wu Tong the happiest was that Qin Guang was now sweaty and smelly. Although Wu Tong said those words, she didn't think that he had a secret date with a girl. How could a date be so smelly? In fact, her heart was in a mess these past few days. She felt that it was very likely that she was sick and very sick. That was why she practiced boxing with all her might. Only when she was bombarding the target would she be able to completely forget about those unimaginable thoughts in her mind. She still couldn't forget the strange incident that happened that night at the police station. Even if the bitter and unforgettable feelings at that time were long gone with the wind, the taste and feeling still lingered. The next day, when Qin Guang used her sister's name to scare Panjiang, Wu Tong didn't feel disgusted at all. Instead, she was secretly delighted and immediately accepted it. In retrospect, she found it unbelievable. Could it be that I really like him? The Prince Charming in her heart was obviously a tall and mighty unrivaled hero. What was so attractive about this young and ignorant brat? But no matter how she found thousands of reasons and thousands of excuses in her heart, she still couldn't convince herself to completely forget the palpitations of that night. She hadn't seen Qin Guang for the past few days, and from time to time, this brat's mischievous smile would appear in her mind. I'm simply a ghost. I'm possessed. Then today she met him here and coincidentally she helped him a lot by catching a very fierce robber. Wu Tong absolutely didn't want to admit it, but she was really happy in her heart. She was especially relaxed, so she deliberately teased him like this. Forget it? You want me to recognize you as my god sister? Please go on the internet and check what F***ck sister means. Qin Guang was a little regretful. Maybe he shouldn't have used this policewoman to show off in front of Panjiang that day. It seemed that he had invited trouble for himself. Sure enough, after listening to his excessive teasing, Wu Tong actually didn't get angry. She just blushed and slapped him on the shoulder. You impudent brat, you even dare to tease your sister? Believe it or not, I'll catch you and interrogate you. Qin Guang was dumbfounded. Damn it, there's definitely something wrong with her current state. Big sister, I'm teasing a good policewoman in public. Can't you be angry for me to see? Could it be that she really likes me? There's no reason for that. Didn't I also eat Lioli's spiritual secret technique? Now my acting skills are still in the negatives, but you've become so undignified? Qin Guang had forgotten that what Lioli gave him was only deep hypnosis, making him think that he was a movie king. What Lioli gave Wu Tong was more high-end, more valiant, and more emotional control. Of course, the two couldn't be mentioned in the same breath. There were a lot of coincidences that led to her current state. If Wu Tong was a man, even if she loved him to death at that time, as time passed, even if there was still some lingering feelings left, it would definitely be completely suppressed and erased by the unbearable disgust as time passed. But Wu Tong was a woman and a virgin at that. No matter how stubborn she was, it couldn't change the fact that Qin Guang wasn't annoying. He was good-looking, had a great body, and although he was a little hot-tempered, he also had a sense of justice. Although it was impulsive to injure Pan Jiang, his motive was to uphold justice. No matter how tough Wu Tong was, she was still a normal woman. Coupled with the lingering feelings of emotional control, it was reasonable for her to have feelings for this handsome young college student who had a sense of justice. In the end, Qin Guang pinched his nose and acknowledged this cheap sister. After all, she was really quite beautiful. He took Wu Tong's Wrangler back to Wenxing town, and Wu Tong sent him all the way to the school gate. When they passed by the school wall at the corner, Qin Guang got out of the car first. This brat actually climbed over the wall. Leaning against the car window, Wu Tong watched Qin Guang jump over the school wall with his butt in the air. Then he nimbly flipped over the wall. Separated by the iron fence, he turned back and waved, then walked inside without looking back. Wu Tong's chin rested on the window as she watched the kid's back. In that instant, an emotion called reluctance surfaced in her heart. Then she suddenly sat up straight and looked at her pale face in the rearview mirror. She slapped her beautiful face and said to herself, "I'm crazy." Dragging his exhausted body, Qin Guang finally returned to the dorm at 2 o'clock in the morning. He quietly stood at the door for a few minutes and sure enough, he heard Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi whispering to each other. When Qin Guang heard this, his balls ached. These two grandsons really didn't have anything good to say. He finally understood what it meant by bad friends being the hardest to deal with in this world. "Little Lin, don't you think Brother Guang's luck with women is a bit too good? Forget about when university's campus belle and class rep son. It seems like even teacher Zhua has fallen for him. I keep feeling like our future is a bit bleak. We're too close to Brother Guang and we hang out all day long. As long as a beauty appears in our social circle, we'll definitely be attracted to him. Just thinking about it makes me feel sad for myself." "Shut up, Bai Nyangzi. You just need to like men. F***CK. Be careful, or I'll climb into your bed while you're asleep and F***CK you." Qin Guang smiled knowingly. Little Lin was a good friend and not as poisonous as Bai Nyangzi. Unexpectedly, after a short moment of silence, Lin Jingwei said, "That's right. He's not back yet, so Teacher Zhuo will probably be on sick leave tomorrow. Anyway, I'll go to the lab tomorrow and steal a bottle of sulfuric acid. If Gaoya also likes him, I'll splash sulfuric acid on his face. F***CK. I'll chop you two grandsons to death." Chapter 140. Fiercely pushing open the door, Qin Guang strode in. Lin Bai and Bai Nianwei, who were very energetic in their writing, were dumbfounded. With the bright white moonlight shining in through the window, the two clearly saw the rather ugly expression on Qin Guang's face. "Oh my brother Guang, why did you come back so late? You scared me to death." Bai Nyangzi laughed. Qin Guang rolled his eyes. "Yeah, if I didn't come back any later, you two would have written a book called Young Ah Guang and Young Married Teacher Zhua." The two laughed awkwardly. Lin Jingwei's face was red. "How could that be? You can't blame us. It was you who came back late and caused a misunderstanding." Although Bai Nyangzi made a wild guess, our original intention was to bless you. In this era, teacher-student relationships aren't that important. Teacher Zhua isn't that old and he's very close to us. We all support you. Continue to lie for me. I want to see how many flowers you can weave." Qin Guang pointed at Lin Jingwei. "Where's your sulfuric acid? How many liters do you need to drink? I've never seen such a shameless person. Damn, it was you who said that Teacher Zhuo was going to call in sick tomorrow." Lin Jingwei's square face turned red, and he cursed his bad luck in his heart. How did they just happen to hear this part? Everyone thought that you wouldn't be coming back tonight. You're a bit unreasonable. Quietly guarding the door at 2 in the morning, eavesdropping on us, It's impossible to guard against. Huff huff huff. The drunk Xiong'er was lucky enough to escape. After all, he was already this drunk and couldn't participate in the bedtime discussion. If I don't poke you two upside down today, my name isn't Qin Guang. Qin Guang was too lazy to explain to these two that there was actually nothing going on between him and Teacher Zhua. After all, if he told the truth, wouldn't it be even more awkward? Then he sat down on his chair, took out a brand new pencil and began sharpening it. It was said in Jianghu that many years ago Qin Guang had a unique skill. People called it the pencil kill. It was extremely ferocious and had once set off a bloody storm in Jianghu. It was only after he had injured a classmate that he was hung up and beaten by his father for 2 hours that he sealed this unique skill in ice. This was already something that happened in junior high school. Today he decided to restart his unique skills and teach Lin Jingwei and Bai Fan, the two fellows who had randomly arranged their stances. Seeing that he began to sharpen his pencil without saying a word, Lin Jingwei and Bai Fan were so scared that they almost peed their pants and jumped out of bed. This guy was really angry. Both of them had heard Qin Guang boast about the illustrious achievements of his pencil-killing technique. Now that the ice-sealing artifact had reappeared in the world, it was going to stir up a rain of blood again. The ones who were in danger were themselves. Not daring to delay any longer, the two of them jumped off the bed and pulled on Qin Guang's shoulders. "Oh, my brother Guang. Don't be like this, calm down. Brothers, don't you understand us? Didn't we learn our cheap mouths from you? How could we have thought that you would come back at this time and happen to hear us? Please be magnanimous and spare you." Bai Nyangzi was not only good at sharpening his tongue, but he was also good at begging for mercy. Lin Jingwei chuckled as he massaged Qin Guang's shoulders and legs. "Big brother Guang, slow down. Don't tire yourself out and don't injure your hands. The injury on your right hand hasn't healed yet. It's not suitable for strenuous exercise. Go to bed early and rest." Qin Guang didn't even raise his head. "Go and pour a glass of water for me." Of course, he didn't really want to poke these two people. Since he knew the danger of this kind of dangerous action, he wouldn't use it as a joke anymore. He just wanted to scare these two grandsons so that they wouldn't be able to keep their mouths shut and make up all kinds of things about him. Lin Jingwei gave him a look, and Bai Nyangzi picked up the glass and ran out of the living room to find the water dispenser to pour water. When Bai Nyangzi came back with the water, Qin Guang was sitting there like a gold knife. He held a pencil that was half sharpened in one hand and a glass in the other. He looked at the two people fiercely. "You guys don't talk nonsense. My reputation doesn't matter. Think about it, if this kind of thing gets out, how can Teacher Zhua face others? Nothing happened to him, but his reputation was ruined for no reason. How much damage would that do to the girl? I say, you two are really too much. Am I such a shallow person? There must be a special reason why I came back so late today. I don't want to tell you, but it's definitely not what you're guessing." As Qin Guang lectured them, their crotches felt cold. They nodded again and again. After all, they were only wearing briefs and the summer night was very cold. "Do you really think I'm such a narrow-minded person?" The two people shook their heads like a rattled drum. No. Brother Guang, you have a big heart. You're very magnanimous," Lin Jingwei said. Bai Fan nodded fiercely. "Little Lin, you're right. I'll give you 10 likes. Qin Guang sighed. "You guys, I really can't stand to see your duplicity. What's our relationship? How can I be angry when we're just joking around and making fun of me? But I really can't involve other women. Whether it's Teacher Zhuo or Sun Xiaoxuan, it's not good for them. As for Wen Hehe, to be honest, you guys don't understand her. If you're lucky enough to see what she looks like when she uses her tricks, I can guarantee that you won't dare to make fun of her for the rest of your lives." Seeing his serious face, Lin Bai and Sun Xiaoxuan were convinced. "All right, you guys go to bed. I'll sleep in a bit." Qin Guang waved his hand domineeringly. Then he picked up the cup and planned to drink some water before going to take a shower. Just as the cup reached his mouth, before the water even entered his mouth, his brain went numb and he suddenly felt a suction force. "What? It's here? It's here." Thunder throwing Lu. So sudden. Without the slightest bit of precaution, without the slightest bit of apprehension, you just appeared in my world and brought me a pleasant surprise. Screw you. Damn. You came at this time. Don't make this kind of international joke. I'm acting cool right now. That's fine too. Maybe after this World and Cup, I'll become the strongest king of acting cool in history? That's fine too. That's not right? Isn't the proposition of acting cool too big? Seeing a Spirit Sky level World and Cup, I feel like it's not cool enough and can't handle it, right? Then what could it be? This time I have a bad feeling. I feel like I'm going to be screwed. With a strong sense of confusion, Qin Guang was once again pulled into the world in cup. It was still a vast expanse of whiteness. I don't care about anything else. I'll call for help first. Lioli? Lioli? Where are you? Come out and receive the guest. After calling twice, there was no response. Qin Guang's heart thumped again. That's not right. I bullied her so badly last time. This time I'll probably beat her up until she's not even human anymore. Why don't I lower my stance a little and ease the relationship a little? Dear Emperor of the Azure, long time no see. I really miss you. Can you come out and chat with me? I'm your savior after all. I shoulder the mission of saving the great godly emperor. Can we talk nicely? After waiting for a long time, there was still no response. Chapter 141. The situation was already out of control and Qin Guang began to panic. Looking at the empty sea of clouds, Emperor of the Azure did not move at all. In Qin Guang's heart, there was a touch of sadness and pain. Poor Lioli, in the end she couldn't hold on until I saved her. She passed away just like that, passing away. This evil heavens, what kind of sin did they commit, to actually let such a beautiful and exposed girl die young? Until today I have never really seen any substantial exposure. It is really a regret in my life. Forget it, for the next heavenly holy grail, let me go alone. Finally, it was about time the real world in the cup began to summon. At this moment, Lioli's voice suddenly echoed in the air. Busy. No time to reveal yourself. Save your divine power. Pray for your own good. Safe this time. Oh, my dearest Emperor, you finally gave me a definite message. Wonderful, wonderful. Just based on your last sentence I feel at ease. Although I don't know what is waiting for me, as long as it is safe, it is enough. Qin Guang was faintly looking forward to it. Seeing how Emperor of the Azure looked as if she was facing a great enemy, in order to save that little bit of divine power, she actually didn't even bother to reveal herself. She must be undergoing some kind of great upgrade, right? Just as he was letting his imagination run wild, the pulling force of the world in the cup suddenly became stronger, and with a whoosh he was pulled in. Coming out of the space-time tunnel, Qin Guang thought that he would hit the surface of the water, but in the end he hit hard on a wooden board that was as hard as iron. Groggily crawling up, Qin Guang only had one thought in his mind. I swear from now on, I will never drink Tai Guanyin again. Damn, this Tai Guanyin that had been soaked was really hard after it became bigger like a steel plate. Obviously, this time in the world in the cup, he wouldn't get Lioli's long-distance guidance. Judging from her manner of speaking just now, there was no hope. But it didn't matter. She had already said that it would be safe and steady. Shaking his head, he regained his vision. Looking around, he took a good look at the surroundings of this world within the cup, and spat out a mouthful of blood. No matter how much I calculated, I couldn't predict it and I couldn't guard against it day and night. In the end I was tricked. The environment he was in now was similar to the world in Dota 2 Cup. However, the environment looked much better, and the scope of the world in the cup was much larger. The quality of the surrounding objects was no different from the real world. There was no mosaic at all. It was clear that after resting and recovering for the past few days, Lioli had indeed slowly controlled the aftereffects of the realm of transient sea. Perhaps this was the normal level of the heavenly spirit realm. It was about 200 meters in diameter, exactly the same as the real world, a real world in a cup. He had finally returned to normal. Come to think of it, although the repercussions of using the realm of transient sea was terrible, Qin Guang really missed that high-end experience that was no different from the real world. Look at what was given in the end. A small broken fish pond with only one computer? The electrical circuit was still at the level of mosaic. An 8-bit racing god training ground? That feeling was basically like when one was used to playing large-scale 3D games such as The Witcher 3, Raleigh 5 and other standalone games, and suddenly only had the feeling of holding a Tetris brick in one's hand. The past was unbearable. If it wasn't for those pencils floating on the surface of the water with unknown meaning, strange uses, and murderous intent, so many that they were like stars in the sky, Qin Guang would have been happy. What the heck? It's not bad that the game's special effects have been restored to full value, but don't tell me you want me to play with this pool of pencils for the rest of my life? What did I want to do with the pencils just now? Poke people. Don't tell me you really want me to practice the ultimate godly skill of poking people with pencils? Since the little flying dagger, there was another godly weapon added to the list of weapons. Little chin pencils? Doctor. My liver hurts so much. I feel like I don't have enough blood to vomit. Oh my God, what do you want me to do? At this moment, the world in a cup changed again. In addition to the pencils, another godly weapon appeared in front of him. That's right, it was a pencil sharpener. As a genius with high IQ in the new era, Qin Guang immediately saw through the real intention of this world in a cup. Good, it's not for me to practice the little chin pencils. Then, I was sharpening pencils just now, so what I want to practice is the ultimate skill of sharpening pencils. Qin Guang felt that his ability to complain might not be enough. The dignified 3,000 worlds, such a high and mighty peerless godly weapon, such an amazing cheat, one world to practice a godly skill, such a cool and heaven-defying special effect. After all this time, you want to train me into the strongest pencil sharpener in history? Or is this called the strongest pencil sharpener in history? Forgive the old man's heart for not being able to accept such a use effect. Well, no matter how strong the desire to complain in his heart was, no matter how painful it was, Qin Guang could only accept his fate. He expressionlessly grabbed the pencil sharpener in front of him, and then picked up a pencil from the water. He gritted his teeth and started sharpening. After a long time, the first pen was sharpened. The nib was round and the cut of the shaft was neat. It was a perfect conical shape. It was simply a work of art. An electronic voice sounded in the air. Qualified. Sharpening index increased by 98 points away from the next level. Qin Guang slapped his own face. You are really advanced and considerate. Sharpening index? Why don't you call it killing index? I kneel for you. The second pen, with a very unhappy mood, was sharpened in 2 or 3 moves. Of course, it was crooked and even the nib was cut off twice. Unqualified. Sharpening index decreased by 99 points away from the next level. You won and you can even decrease it. It was I who lost, so please accept my kneel. More than 2 hours later, the sharpening index increased by 1. The level was upgraded. 99 points away from the next level. I leveled up just like that? And then? There were no changes? No hints? No fancy sharpening techniques? Qin Guang used to think that Dota 2 was the most boring world in a cup. After all, although the racing god training ground was moving, it was actually quite interesting. But today he finally realized that he was wrong. Ridiculously wrong. There was no lower limit to the world in a cup. Don't try to challenge its limits because it would always give you a head-on blow when you weren't expecting it. This time I've lost in a complete mess. God. At least give me something different for the third level. This kind of setting will give me a psychological barrier. 3 days later, the sharpening index increased by 1. The level was upgraded. 99 points away from the next level. Still, there were no changes. I don't know how many levels there will be after this level. To be honest, I might not be able to survive this time. Anyway, I have a sharpener in my hand. Why don't I use this thing to slit my neck? After gesturing at his neck for a long time, Qin Guang couldn't bring himself to do it. He felt that he could still save himself. Half a month later, the sharpening index increased by 1. The level was upgraded. 99 points away from the next level. Thank God, at least it was a little different. Even if it was just a little change, it was enough to move him to tears. Chapter 142. In the end, he passed the horrible sharpening test. Don't ask him how many pencils he sharpened. He said he didn't want to answer and didn't want to remember. In short, if someone said that he was impatient, he would definitely slap that person's face. Idiot, you're facing a person who has practiced sharpening a pencil to an unprecedented level. He's the strongest person in history, and you dare to say that I don't have any growth potential? That's right, from now on, Master Qin Guang will undoubtedly be the best sharpener in the history of the earth and the entire universe. The best sharpener in history. Although it was useless. When he came out of the world in the cup, he didn't see Emperor of the Azure. The woman decided not to appear today. Light flashed and he appeared in the bedroom again. Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi had just climbed to the bed and were about to go up the ladder. In the real world, only 10 seconds had passed. Qin Guang silently put down the cup and pulled out a tissue from the box next to him. He discreetly wiped his eyes. K, I actually wet my eyes looking at these 2 grandsons' briefs. This is so embarrassing. Qin Guang sat on the chair in a daze. After adjusting his mood for a long time, he slowly got up and walked to the bathroom to take a cold shower. This time, the world in the cup had a big impact on him. He wouldn't be able to recover without sleeping. Standing under the faucet and feeling the cold water, Qin Guang sorted out his thoughts. To be honest, it wasn't entirely a bad thing to be cheated by the world in the cup. At least it made Qin Guang realize the fact that this thing really wanted to cheat people. It was completely unreasonable and had no bottom line. In the past, he naively thought that although this thing could appear at any time and instantly detect his thoughts to determine the final form of the world in the cup, it should at least be slightly more normal. So far, even the most worthless and meaningless Dota 2 hellish training had allowed him to reach the peak of the game. Even if his actual combat strength could only last for 1 or 2 matches, it was more than enough to show off in public. So much so that he let down his guard. What the world in the cup had done to him tonight was like a spray of cold water from a faucet on his head, instantly waking him up. I can't relax. If he touched this cup while taking a dump, he would really become the king of anal prolapse and die. Damn, a normal human wouldn't drink water while taking a dump, right? Am I not scaring myself? Oh, not bad. Qin Guang slapped his forehead. His brain had short-circuited. He had been afraid of something that had never happened for a long time. That's right, as long as I don't become the king of anal prolapse, is there anything on earth that I can't afford to offend? Even the setting of being the strongest pencil sharpener in history, I gritted my teeth and endured it. Was there any difficulty that I couldn't overcome? Happy. If it weren't for the fact that it was late at night, Qin Guang would have whistled twice to celebrate. After taking a shower and lying on the bed, he began to plan again. It had been 2 to 3 weeks and the world in the cup had only appeared 4 times. Damn, that was the 3,000 worlds. The old man pinched his fingers and calculated. According to the current speed, to complete the 3,000 worlds test, damn, it would take at least 60 years. Now that I am 20 years old, doesn't that mean that when I am 80 years old I will still be doing missions bitterly? Damn, at that time, even if I become the master of the 3,000 worlds that Lily mentioned and have trillions of cute girls, I am already so old. Even if I have the heart to kill a thief, I will not be able to turn the situation around. Could it be that I can only enjoy the so-called deceptive spiritual intercourse? I don't want Plato, I just want to fight to my heart's content in close combat. Thinking of this, his heart felt really cold. It was so depressing that he couldn't even muster up his energy. Wait, I seem to have forgotten something? What I said just now was already a very good situation. According to the so-called naughty nature of the so-called divine weapon upgrade, the later it was, the longer the upgrade time would be. Could it be that my glorious responsibility as a savior will eventually be defeated by time? Will I die of old age before I can save the person? The dignified savior of the Emperor of the Azure in the endless divine realm failed the mission because he died of old age. Such a setting revealed a complete sense of despair. Unfortunately, Lily seemed to be in seclusion now. Otherwise, Qin Guang really wanted to call her out and have a good talk with her about the insights he had just thought of to see if she had prepared any backup plans. Thinking about it carefully, she couldn't be so deceptive that she couldn't even think of such a simple reason. Could it be that since I became a savior, I was destined to live forever? Then wouldn't I have to be like the protagonists in some TV shows and movies, constantly watching my loved ones grow old and die one by one? Professor Dew from the stars? Wouldn't this plot be a bit too torturous? Nowadays this kind of sadomasochistic plot is not popular. In a daze, Qin Guang didn't have the ability to continue letting his imagination run wild. After all the torment today he was really exhausted. As he lay down he closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep. After a long time, in the middle of the night, on the writing table under his bed, the heavenly grail was faintly emitting a milky white light. The crazy laughter of the Emperor of the Azure echoed in the grail like a ghost, but the volume was as soft as a mosquito. Even Qin Guang, who was on the upper bunk, couldn't hear it. Wah! I've succeeded. I've finally succeeded. I finally don't have to live like a prisoner on death row anymore. I can go online now. I've changed from a prisoner under house arrest to a female otaku who can't go out. This is a huge leap in quality. The naked Emperor of the Azure's portrait danced on the heavenly grail. If someone saw that the portrait on the grail could actually dance, they would definitely be scared out of their wits. Fortunately, Qin Guang wore the Hello Kitty jacket for her, so there was no risk of her being exposed. When this crazy woman finally settled down, the decorative painting on the wall of the grail suddenly froze. Shortly after, a white fiber as thin as hair slowly extended out from the finger of the decorative painting, extending along the side of the grail all the way down to the table. Following that, it crawled along the table all the way down to Qin Guang's computer mainframe and plunged into it. This wasn't the end. After waiting for a while, another white fiber extended out and followed the steel pipe that was one with the bed. Like a creeper, it quietly flipped over Qin Guang's head and pierced into his phone that was placed on the bedside table. After a brief flash of light, the two fibers gradually dimmed and disappeared. The Emperor of the Azure snapped her fingers in the Grail world. It's done. Shortly after, she muttered to herself, it seems like it takes a lot of divine power to maintain the internet. My lustrous feather dress? Forget it, I don't care anymore. I can't hold it in anymore. Going online is important. There's nothing more important in this world than going online. No one knew what the Emperor of the Azure planned to do online. The only thing they could be sure of was that the data on Qin Guang's phone was definitely going to explode. Chapter 143. The next day, Qin Guang did not wake up early. When he opened his eyes, it was already past 10 in the morning. He was woken up by Nyangzi's shrill voice. These two grandsons were restless the moment they woke up. Nyangzi was lying next to Xiong'er's head in the form of a golden-haired lion king, providing a gentle and caring roar to wake him up. However, Xiong'er had been drunk all night and was in a good state. Nyangzi's roar could do nothing to him. Qin Guang opened his sleepy eyes and watched Nyangzi's various performances. He felt that this guy had ulterior motives. On the surface, he seemed to be tormenting Xiong'er, but he was secretly taking revenge on him for scaring him last night. If I didn't know you were narrow-minded, I would have been fooled by you. What are you howling for? Do you see my fist that's as big as a clay pot? Do you believe that I can turn you into a national treasure? Qin Guang roared in annoyance. Nyangzi turned around and chuckled. Oh, Master Guang is awake? Do you need me to buy you breakfast? Qin Guang thought for a moment and nodded. Sure, I'll go back to sleep. Bring me a bowl of porridge and 4 steamed buns. Lin Jingwei finished washing up and walked in from the door. He asked, one more than usual? Qin Guang spat in his heart. How could this guy be so observant? Could it be that the real gay guy in the dormitory was not Nyangzi but this guy? I'm still growing. Eating more is useless. What do you guys know? I'm going to sleep for a while more. After saying that, Qin Guang fell down again. It was rare that he did not have any classes in the morning. It was the perfect time to laze in bed in the hot summer. Of course, it didn't matter if he had classes or not. The afternoon class was a big class for hundreds of people. Qin Guang also planned to skip it. Don't ask me why I'm so cool. The king of truancy has always been domineering. If I don't mention names, I'll just kneel at the teacher's door and beg for forgiveness. In the end, he didn't sleep well. It was rare for Queen Wenwen to call him personally, so he didn't dare to ignore it. Qin Guang, where have you been these days? I don't see you playing any games and you don't come to the library either. Are you trying to disappear with me? Queen Wenwen's voice sounded very unhappy. The consequences were very serious, which made Qin Guang vaguely remember the scene when this woman put down all the hooligans in less than 10 seconds. Although I can be considered half an expert now compared to this female Tyrannosaurus, Qin Guang felt that he could probably live for 30 seconds. Not to mention with second Uncle Wen's inner force, although Qin Guang had never asked, he knew that Wenwen's skills were not as simple as they seemed on the surface. He quickly sat up straight and shook his head fiercely to clear his mind. Before he officially opened his mouth, Master Qin Guang first organized his thoughts so that he wouldn't spill something that he shouldn't say. You don't know? Yesterday our class received a group of foreign guests. They're very influential. They're professors and top students from MIT. Recently, our whole class has been working around the clock on this matter. Everyone is very tired and I haven't been idle either. I helped to prepare the thesis. I have to say the reception yesterday was not bad. The professor from MIT seemed to appreciate the thesis that our class wrote. Qin Guang chuckled. On the other end of the phone, Wenwen spat. You? You even helped to prepare the thesis? Aren't you more of a hindrance? Qin Guang wasn't convinced. Let me tell you. Don't look down on me. I'm the main force. The main force serving tea and water. Fine, you saw through me. The thesis is mainly done by Sun Xiaoxuan and the others. Us boys are just assistants. However, this is for the glory of the country and the school, so we definitely have to help. It didn't affect my revision for CET4. After all, we were receiving foreign guests. I studied my English along with the thesis. The best way to lie in this world was to use half-truths. Qin Guang understood the essence of this. Even if he was seen through in the future, he could still argue that Miss Wen had a problem with her comprehension. He didn't purposely hide it from her. Well, this way he could avoid getting beaten up. It was better to be safe than sorry. Alright then. I was worried that I would disturb your studies. Since you've been reading recently, come out and relax with me today. It's a balance between work and rest. I'll give you 10 minutes. Hurry up and get dressed. I'll wait for you at the school gate. Let's go straight to the internet cafe. My hands are itchy. It turned out that when university's campus bell calling to express her condolences was fake. Her hands were really itchy. To be honest, Qin Guang's hands were a little itchy too. He immediately put on his clothes quickly. When he was halfway through putting on his clothes, the hungover Xiong suddenly sat up straight on the bed like an alarm clock. Then he turned his face like a zombie and looked at Qin Guang. He said in a muffled voice, "Good morning, Brother Guang. Thanks for your hard work, Uncle Bear." After putting on his clothes, Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi came back with a big bag each. It must be said that Lin Jingwei really had the gift of being a good family man. He even thoughtfully bought breakfast for Xiong. It was just nice. However, when the third grandson heard that Qin Guang planned to run away with the buns and porridge, he became very curious about where he was going. Qin Guang had no choice but to stand them up again. He felt guilty, so he told them honestly that he was going to play a two-person game with Wenwen. The three of them did not agree. Even Xiong, who had just sobered up, became energetic and insisted on going. After all, Qin Guang's amazing Dota skills had deeply impressed the three frogs in the well. They really wanted to know how scary it would be after Qin Guang and Wenwen, the two experts, played a two-person game in the internet cafe. It would definitely be a storm in the high levels and countless heroes would fight to bow down to them. Qin Guang could not dissuade them, so he could only pinch his nose and agree. "Let me tell you guys, I won't bring you three noobs. After all, I and Wenwen are playing in the high levels with more than 5,000 points. Not long ago, Qin Guang was humiliated by these three players with 4,000 points. Now he could use this arrogant tone to call them noobs. After enduring 3 months of hellish training, wasn't it for this moment?" The three of them nodded their heads like chicks pecking at rice. "Observing and learning is the main thing and getting close to the school bell is the secondary thing," Lin Jingwei said with a smile. "Hey, is it elegant?" *CK. Stop it. I was just joking. Don't panic, the call didn't go through. Qin Guang pushed Lin Jingwei away. Alright, stop it. When university school bell is going to flip out if we drag this out any longer." The four of them rushed to the school gate while munching on their buns. On the way, Qin Guang suddenly stopped in his tracks. He was glad that he was careful and almost messed things up. "Right, there's one more thing. You guys must remember." The three of them saw him acting like he was facing a great enemy and thought he had a big secret. "When I see Wenwen later, I can't let her know that my English has changed drastically and is no longer the same as before. Remember, it's very important." "Why?" Bai Nyangzi scratched his head in confusion. The other two were also confused. Xiong asked, "Don't you like to show off? This is a very good opportunity." Qin Guang kicked him. "The secret of the heavens must not be revealed. In any case, all of you better remember this. Whoever dares to leak the secret will be my enemy for life." Chapter 144. Although they did not understand his intentions, the three of them felt that he must be plotting something when they saw how serious he was. They all swore to the heavens that they would not betray their brother's trust. Otherwise they would die a horrible death. "Alright, since you guys are so sincere, I'll show you what it means to be the strongest duo of hacks in history." Miss Wen said 10 minutes, so they did not dare to waste a second. When they rushed to the school gate, they checked their watches and arrived at the 10-minute mark. Qin Guang quickly explained, "These three grandsons insisted on coming with us to broaden their horizons. They wanted to see how powerful we are when we're playing against each other. I couldn't even stop them, so we wasted some time." Xiong stuck his head out from the side with a face full of admiration. "When university's campus bell is still as beautiful as ever. Our school's iron gate is practically blossoming with flowers." Bai Nyangzi jumped excitedly. That's right. Needless to say, while Wenwen was waiting for them at the school gate, many people had already bumped their heads into the lampposts one after another. Today she was in high spirits. She wore a pair of tight waistcoats, a white shirt and a black waistcoat. Coupled with her refreshing long hair and her tall, slender and plump figure, she looked like a strong woman. Wenwen smiled at Qin Guang and waved her hand nonchalantly. "Stop dawdling, let's go." The ignorant and fearless Lin Jingwei, Bai Nyangzi and Xiong did not know that Qin Guang had already pushed them to the gates of hell. If when university's campus bell really ran out of patience, it would be the fault of these three burdens. The five of them plunged into the internet cafe. When they entered, some of the ignorant and pitiful youngsters looked up. The five of them entered in unison, and there was an outrageously beautiful girl in the middle. They all looked at them curiously. It was another team of 5. However, they actually had a girl with them and she was so pretty. "I curse you guys to make the girl beg for death." Qin Guang and Wenwen were already used to these people's expressions, so they didn't think much of it. This was the first time that Lin Jingwei and the other two were tagging along, so they weren't used to it. After all, Qin Guang was a tragedy in the past. Wenwen's training with him was called weight-bearing training. Of course, she wouldn't let these three grandsons come to the internet cafe to watch him being tortured to death in the high levels. Now that he was different from before, he dared to bring the three of them out. These short-sighted fools, they must think of us as the babysitter clan. Bai Nyangzi pinched his throat and said unhappily. Lin Jingwei, on the other hand, was calm. He smiled coolly and said, "These pitiful mortals don't understand that the true glory of babysitters is when Brother Guang is babysitter." Qin Guang sat in his booth and looked askance at these three pitiful fools. They didn't know how dangerous it was to tease when university's campus bell. They were dancing on the tip of a knife. Although the three grandsons had also turned on their computers, they didn't plan to sit down and fight. Instead, they surrounded Qin Guang and Wenwen, planning to get close to the people's gods. The most painful wait was the time before the computers were turned on in the internet cafe. Qin Guang and Wenwen were bored to death and felt uncomfortable. Especially Qin Guang. He thought of the world in the sharpening cup last night and thought, this isn't right. Every time I learned a godly skill in the world in the cup, I would immediately use this godly skill to show off. Although the setting of being the best pencil sharpener in history was useless, it could be used to show off. If I don't show off, how can I live up to the miserable days and nights I spent with the sharpener? I can't let my hard work go to waste. Bai Nyangzi, I have a task for you. Go to the internet cafe counter and find me a pencil sharpener and a pencil sharpener. Although Bai Nyangzi didn't know what he was going to do, seeing that he was about to show off his godly skill in Dota, Bai Nyangzi went to run the errand. The internet cafe counter was out of stock. Fortunately, there was a snack shop downstairs. When Bai Nyangzi ran back, Qin Guang and Wenwen were already complaining about the game's matchmaking system. The matchmaking system was very friendly and considerate. From time to time, it would give a big surprise. The matchmaking time ranged from 1 minute to half an hour. Before the successful matchmaking interface popped up, you would never know when he would give you a surprise or a tragedy. Qin Guang thought that the game operator must be considerate of the majority of players. Long-term high-intensity games were not good for the physical and mental health. They would force players to rest for 10 to 20 minutes from time to time to help the majority of players have appropriate time to rest during the intense game. They could empty their minds and think about life. Only the heavens knew when he would be matched, so he had to kill some time first. Taking the pencil and knife, Qin Guang mysteriously smiled and said, "Lads, let me show you guys a divine technique." Everyone saw his mysterious look and then looked at the thing in his hand. Even Goddess Wenwen had a puzzled expression on her face. Taking a deep breath, Qin Guang said loudly, "Hey, watch carefully." Immediately, his eyes emitted a dazzling cold light. His aura instantly rose and shot into the sky. Not bad. After all, he was a pencil sharpening grandmaster. Even if he was not a grandmaster, he was still a grandmaster. A grandmaster of a generation had his own bearing. Qin Guang's eyes widened in anger. Holding the knife in his right hand, he slashed down fiercely. Receive the shock of my world-shocking skill. In a flash, the moment his pencil sharpener touched the tip of the pencil, countless sawdust flew like snow and scattered all over the ground. When the smoke and dust dissipated, only a perfectly round nib was left. It was fresh out of the oven and looked easy to write. It was very awesome and could definitely draw a perfect arc on the paper. This was a work of art that was as perfect as Venus. Qin Guang used less than 3 seconds to finish it. There was a calm and elegant smile on his face. It was hot and cool. Frogs at the bottom of a well, are you scared by my scary style? I hope you can face the bleak and miserable life in the future correctly. How about it? I'm asking you, am I handsome? Am I cool? Do you want to learn? F***ck off. This was Wenwen's response. It's useless. Lin Jingwei commented. Brother Guang, you must have practiced this for 17 to 18 years, right? Amazing. But I don't want to learn. As expected of Xiong Air. Is it the police, uncle? Someone is acting cool here. It's so glaring, the situation is out of control. Bai Nyangzi actually made the call. After a while, when the interface of the successful match popped up, everyone's expression immediately changed, and they instantly became incomparably serious. A thick murderous aura emanated from Qin Guang and Wenwen. It shot up into the sky and almost smashed a hole in the internet cafe's ceiling. This super strong duo of black players would finally reappear in the world. The Chinese Dota world was going to be turbulent again. No one noticed that in the heavenly holy grail that Qin Guang had placed in front of the computer monitor, Emperor of the Azure's fingers and eyes were glowing with a terrifying light. The black Batman mug cover, coupled with the Hello Kitty mug cover inside, was a double layer of protection. It wouldn't leak and wouldn't be exposed. She could move it however she wanted. What? Someone said that he couldn't change the mug cover before? Stop joking. Master Guang was so smart. Why did he have to take off the Hello Kitty? He could use one mug for 2 mugs. He had no choice. That was how he could be so willful when he was rich. Chapter 145. About 40 minutes passed. He looked at the dazzling words Heavenly Brilliance's Victory on the screen. Qin Guang's hand that was holding the mouse froze. He had a blank look on his face. He did not understand what had happened at all. That was because he was on Yi Jie's side, the losing side. Wenwen's face was also blank. She had played this game for many years, but had never encountered such a strange game. From start to finish, she did not feel anything out of the ordinary. Wenwen, who was in charge of the mid lane, played the Blackbird. Her performance was stable. She suppressed in the early stages, fought in the middle and carried in the late stages. She was like a stabilizing force. Qin Guang, who was in the center position, chose the Phantom Assassin, a hero with explosive power. In the early stages, with the cooperation of his teammates, he completely destroyed the opponent's disadvantageous path. In the middle stages, he relied on his godlike skills and awareness to kill the opponent, escape from death, or counterattack in a desperate situation. We have a huge advantage this round. We have a huge advantage this round. We have a huge advantage this round. We will definitely win this round. Watch and fight. But in the end, the strongest pair of Blackbirds in history lost this round. They actually lost. The people who lost were baffled and confused. The reason was that in the last round of the team battle, the opponent was sleepwalking from start to finish. The Dark Sage, who did not contribute as much as the soldiers of Heavenly Brilliance, suddenly stood up and blocked in front of Qin Guang's Phantom Assassin. As a high-damage output late game, Qin Guang decisively flashed forward and prepared to send him on his way. Then the problem was, I attacked 18 times in a row and none of them were critical hits. What does this mean? This guy was so tough that he was unreasonable. He was as disgusting and annoying as a dog skin plaster. Even when all of his teammates were lying on the ground, Qin Guang still could not kill the Dark Sage, who was stronger than a cockroach. In the end, the opponent counterattacked and took away the base. Throwing away the mouse, Qin Guang turned to look at the people behind him and asked, "Did I play perfectly this round?" The 3 nodded. "Perfect. Don't you think my mechanics are cool? So cool that I can fly. Did I make any mistakes?" "No." "Then why do you think that's the case? Why did he lose?" Bai Nyangzi analyzed, Maybe it's because we didn't wash our faces before we left, so your face is too black?" Qin Guang covered his face, feeling an indescribable pain in the ass. He had thought that he could easily close his eyes and kill everyone, but he didn't expect that he would have such a bad start and get hit in the knee by an arrow. "Director, this is a little different from the script I imagined. I want to stop acting." The other side must have used an anti-crit cheat. The opponent was a cheater. Wenwen, on the other hand, twisted her neck, rubbed her fingers and gritted her teeth. This lady doesn't believe this today. Again. "Are you okay?" Of course, she still remembered Qin Guang's nausea. Qin Guang carefully thought about his current condition. Although he felt a little uncomfortable, he could still bear it. He nodded and said, "All right, one more." Half an hour later, when their base once again fell under the enemy's siege, Qin Guang exploded. Boom. Unable to care about anything else, Qin Guang threw down the mouse and rushed to the internet cafe's toilet. The other 4 were already used to his behavior, but they couldn't understand the huge victory of Nightmare on the computer monitor. In this game, Qin Guang and Wenwen were on the Sky Brilliance side. The development of the plot was almost the same as the previous game. They had all kinds of advantages in the early stages, and with Wenwen's nearly 8,000 points, Qin Guang's strength as the strongest player in history, and the 5,000 groups, it was impossible for them to meet an opponent that was too difficult to deal with. But in the end, there was still such a person who fiercely stood up and pulled the unstoppable Qin Guang to the ground, his mouth full of mud. Wenwen frowned as she looked at that slightly familiar ID. Then she returned to the game interface and looked at the game record of the previous game. She discovered an exceptionally surprising fact. In 2 consecutive games, the person who had successfully suppressed Qin Guang's performance was actually the same person. It was an unknown player with the ID Jiangliuwa. Lin Jingwei and the other two also saw that something was amiss. Bai Nyangzi deftly searched for this person's battle record on his computer, and his face was even more bewildered. Strange, this person has no previous match record. It's a completely new ID that was directly matched with one university's Campus Bell and Brother Guang, and in 2 consecutive games. There's no reason for that. Could it be that the server is targeting you? Lin Jingwei also expressed his bewilderment. Even if it's really the almighty Smuff, there's no reason for this kind of newly registered ID to be matched with your high-level group. There's something fishy going on. Wenwen waved her hand indifferently. Forget it. Whether it's the server targeting us or Jiang Liuwa targeting me and Qin Guang, it doesn't matter. In any case, playing games is to relax. Although winning or losing is important, losing isn't a big deal. It's not like we haven't lost before. Qin Guang had thrown up in the toilet, and by the time he had run over, he had already put on a pair of sunglasses. After 2 consecutive games, the aftereffects had flared up again. Walking over to the computer, he pulled Wenwen to run away. We can't play anymore, we can't play anymore. Let's call a truce for today and fight another day. Wenwen wasn't in a hurry to get up. Instead, she forced him to stare at the monitor and asked, "Have you seen this ID before, Jiang Liuwa? He's the one who defeated you in these 2 games." Qin Guang clenched his teeth and stared at the ID, then went to Bai Nyangzi's computer to look at this person's battle record. He shook his head repeatedly. "I've never seen him before. I don't know where he came from." Although he looked calm on the surface, in fact, no one could understand the stormy waves in his heart. He wasn't blowing his own trumpet. After going through hellish training, he claimed to be the world's number 2, but no one really claimed to be the world's number 1. So here was the problem. This time he had indeed completely and utterly lost to the same person. This was simply a human tragedy. Although the other side had only fought him head-on in the later stages of the game and had always looked like he was at a disadvantage, that person had, in the end, used the position of a soy sauce to restrain him, the main carry. Clearly he had the advantage, beating the other side until he covered his head and scurried away like a rat, but he just couldn't send him back to the spring. Instead, he had been disrupted so much that he couldn't attack, which ultimately led to his team's defeat and the loss of the game. What exactly went wrong? Why do I feel that this person called Jiang Liuwa has completely seen through my every move? My operation can be said to be at the peak of perfection, but that Jiang Liuwa is equally meticulous and even better than me. Qin Guang simply couldn't understand. This opponent was ridiculously strong, simply exceeding the limits of human beings. If it was just one failure, it could still be attributed to chance, but 2 failures in a row was enough to explain the problem. The others hadn't reached Qin Guang's realm, so they couldn't see clearly what was strange about it. They just thought that this was an ordinary losing streak. After all, no matter how strong a professional player was, it was impossible to dominate a random game forever, and losing streaks were even more common. But Qin Guang clearly knew that things weren't so simple. There was something fishy going on here. Chapter 146. Forcing himself to endure the discomfort, Qin Guang opened his game account and sent a friend request to Jiang Liuwa. Regardless of whether the other party accepted it or not, he immediately got offline and ran away. Taking a second look at the game interface, he vomited stomach acid all over the ground. Qin Guang and Wenwen were leaving, and Bai Nyangzi and the other 2 were no longer in the mood to stay. Today's feng shui was unfavorable, so it was better to stay at home instead of playing games. Qin Guang's mind was full of Jiang Liuwa's matter, which had dealt him a huge blow. He had always believed that the ability that he had trained in the world within a cup would be flawless and invulnerable. He would definitely be the strongest in history. But in the end, while playing Dota today, he had been cured. It seemed like a trivial matter, but it had made him start to doubt his entire life. Could it be that in addition to me, the controller of the cheat, there is another non-human being in this world who receives the same treatment as me? *CK. I refuse to accept this. Even if there really is such a person, how senseless must you be to come to the game to beat me up? You won a game against me and I won't lose a single cent. At that moment, Qin Guang had no idea that in the realm and cup of the heavenly Holy Grail, a very inelegantly dressed goddess empress was going crazy with joy. Oh my, this small low-end plane can actually give this empress such a big surprise? This is really unexpected. These mortals are so weak that even this empress doesn't want to ridicule them, but their imagination is really amazing. Is this the wisdom of ants? Emperor of the Azure was rocking back and forth with laughter, but no one paid attention to her. After all, before Qin Guang had entered this huge realm in cup, she had been the only one there. If Qin Guang had seen this scene, he would definitely have regarded her as a lunatic. To borrow a saying that people on Earth often say, city people really know how to play. The longer he stayed by Qin Guang's side, the more he successfully connected to the internet last night. Finally, he did not have to waste time and energy and waste a large amount of divine power to probe and sense the outside world. Liuli understood the methods of the modern world. From the high and mighty God power perception, it became a more low-key, luxurious, meaningful, practical, and efficient way of consuming data. Surfing the internet. This unprecedented retreat allowed her to be like a fish in water. It was like a dragon returning to the sea, a bird flying freely in the sky. From last night until now, Emperor of the Azure had lost count of how many jokes she had read on the internet and how many popular new languages she had learned. Things like, exploding manga, unexpectedly, reporting to boss, 100,000 cold jokes, hip-hop quartet, the complete collection of Stephen King's movies. Well, she hadn't had time to watch these yet, but she had written them down and planned to read them later. But this still wasn't what made her happiest. Today, when she saw Qin Guang and Wenwen playing games, she couldn't help sneaking into the internet and giving it a try. She created an ID called Jiang Lu Hua, which had the word Lu in it, and put herself in front of Qin Guang to have fun twice in a row. She was astonished. She simply admired the Earthling's entertainment spirit from the bottom of her heart. In her long career as a divine emperor, she had seen all kinds of storms and tried all kinds of strange ways of playing. But in the endless realm of the gods, billions of gods pursued greater power. Their overly powerful selves often put the cart before the horse when developing entertainment methods. The so-called leisure, to put it bluntly, was still cultivation. No matter how powerful they were, they couldn't focus on the right things. It wasn't like Earth, where there was a group of people who exhausted their wisdom and worked together just to make a relaxing, enjoyable, and addictive game. The two were simply not on the same level. The moment Liuli started playing, she was completely addicted to the game. At the same time, she even tortured old master Qin Guang. Why was it so fun? If I wasn't a dignified divine emperor, I would have knelt down in front of the person who made this game. Please accept my 10 billion-year-old good kneeling. It's a pity that Qin Guang's cell phone network is too unstable, so it's really inconvenient to connect to the game. Forget it, I'll play it when he's asleep at night. Anyway, I have nothing to do and watching a video on the 4G network isn't a problem, so I'll watch it first. Unexpectedly, right? Master Guang's cell phone data was on the latest high-speed train heading north, gradually getting farther and farther away. Sadly, Liuli was annoyed and even blocked the text messages from 10086, who always sent her text messages to disturb her watching movies. If Qin Guang knew that he wasn't abused by another non-human with a cheat, but by his own cheat, he would probably vomit a few more liters of blood. Oh, he would probably vomit a few more liters of blood when he had to pay the phone bill next month. After all, when he first entered university, he was still a middle-aged rich second-generation heir. In order to show his status, he had specially applied for a postpaid phone card, so it wouldn't be suspended because of arrears. This time he was probably going to suffer a heavy loss. On the other hand, as soon as Qin Guang and the other four walked out of the internet cafe with a heavy heart, they ran into a punching bag. Strictly speaking, the dozen or so young men with stud earrings and weird hairstyles standing in front of the five of them were Wenwen's punching bags. Perhaps she was a little unhappy because she had been beaten twice in a row today, so she was in a rare state of absent-mindedness. When she walked out of the internet cafe, she accidentally stepped on the foot of the young man who was about to enter the door. This group of hot-tempered young men who were active in the vicinity of Wenxing town were instantly ignited. When they saw Wenwen's overly beautiful appearance, they didn't care even if there were 4 boys by her side. After all, they had a lot of family. The one who had his foot stepped on had the gall to extend his hand towards Wenwen's face, planning to touch her face first. He said, "Little girl, you stepped on your brother's foot and you want to leave without saying anything?" Seeing this, Qin Guang reacted the fastest. He quickly retreated and turned his face away at the same time. This scene was so familiar. The only difference was that last time it was at night, and this time it was in broad daylight. As for the 3 grandsons of Lin Jingwei, they didn't need to care about those details. They were just props in the background. Xiong'er, who didn't know the severity of the situation, was the first to explode. He roared, "Damn it! Get lost. I'll slap you." Needless to say, Xiong'er's movement, coupled with his ferocious tiger-like aura, was quite intimidating. However, Wenwen didn't make a sound. She raised her hand at lightning speed and blocked the ignorant young man's palm. Then she tightened her fingernails and flicked her finger. The young man covered his hand and wailed as he shrank to the side. About 30 seconds later, Qin Guang finally turned his face around. It was truly a tragic sight. "Sai, you people are really too much. Why did you have to come and be the punching bag when university's campus belle is in a bad mood? Your courage and generosity will be engraved in the annals of history." Warriors. Lin, Bai, and Xiong stood in front of the internet cafe in a daze. Their faces were full of shock. Qin Guang patted their shoulders heavily and sighed. "Brothers, you all know what kind of life I've been living for the past 3 years, right?" Chapter 147. The three of them nodded their heads like chicks pecking at rice. "I understand, I finally understand." Recalling how they dared to tease when university's campus belle, the three grandsons broke out in a cold sweat. Oh my God, there were more than 10 people. In 30 seconds, her movements were so fast that they couldn't be seen clearly. They could only see them flying out one after another and landing on the ground. No one knew where they were injured, but no one could get up. To be honest, Xiong, luckily I held you back just now. If you tried to help and got hurt by accident, didn't I have internal bleeding at the start of my first year? I never told you what happened, but it's not too late to tell you now. I was just hit by her and accidentally punched. It was just one punch. The more Qin Guang spoke, the more terrifying it became. The three of them looked at Wenwen with a strange expression. It was like a rabbit looking at a female tyrannosaurus. When they looked at Qin Guang again, it was as if they were looking at a martyr walking on the road to hell. Lin Bai and Xiong could not help but recall what Qin Guang said last night. No wonder he said that after they saw Wenwen's methods, they would never dare to make fun of Wenwen again in this life. Not to mention this life, even if there was a next life, I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare. Wenwen walked back while clapping her hands. She smiled at the three of them. "Why are you looking at me like that? Didn't Qin Guang tell you about me?" Qin Guang rolled his eyes. "Am I not trying to protect your ladylike image of when university's campus belle?" The three of them shook their heads violently. Lin Jingwei, who was standing by the door, almost hit his nose on the door frame. Glancing at the three of them in disdain, Wenwen continued, "That's why Qin Guang isn't the same as you guys. Back then, when he first met me, I was here beating up a bunch of people, but he wasn't afraid of me." She brought it up again. Qin Guang felt his stomach ache. He thought to himself, "Missy, I was stunned by your punch and almost lost consciousness. I wanted to be afraid, but I didn't have the energy to be. This was probably fate." Hence, after Qin Guang and Wenwen became best friends, Lin Baixiong and the other two never had the same treatment. The three of them were instantly filled with admiration for Qin Guang. Brother Guang was indeed Brother Guang. There was only one Brother Guang in this world. Bai Nyangzi rolled his eyes. "How can we compare to Brother Guang? Alright, let's go." Wenwen wiped the blood on the back of her hand on Qin Guang's shirt. Then she waved her hand and left. The five of them ran away in a flash, leaving behind a bunch of wailing punks. A true warrior never looked back to see an explosion. After returning to school, Lin Baixiong and the other two found an excuse to run away. Qin Guang was dragged to the library by Wenwen. There was a balance between work and rest. After playing games, he had to pick up his studies later. The two of them sat in the library. Qin Guang stared at the papers in front of him, but he couldn't help but recall the 2 consecutive rounds. Under normal circumstances, although Wenwen was tough, she wasn't so hot-tempered. That young man had only reached out to take advantage of her, but he hadn't. At most, she had taught the leader of the punks a lesson and subdued the others. Today she had been so ruthless, which was clearly abnormal. She was indeed venting something. Qin Guang speculated that it was very likely that his godly performance had made her look forward to the next round. She had planned to win 2 rounds quickly, but in the end she had lost. She had been unhappy and those people had been out of luck. Therefore, she had taken all the human sandbags that had been delivered to her doorstep. Alas, in order to save the world, in order to prevent as many innocent people as possible from being harmed, I can't lose. Qin Guang gritted his teeth and steeled his heart. He definitely couldn't let Jiangliu get away with it and ride on his head. Good. Since you've chosen to have a showdown with me in Dota, as the master of this generation's golden finger, as the savior of Emperor of the Azure, I accept your challenge. I'll kill Jiangliu. If I have time, I'll practice well. But the prerequisite is that if I have time. After all, I'm also carrying a family on my shoulders. Time is very precious. At this time, Wenwen also propped her chin up with her hand. She wasn't staring at Qin Guang, but was looking outside through the library's glass wall with a dull expression. Her mind was wandering and no one knew what she was thinking. Qin Guang still didn't have any clues about his family's affairs. The clues had been completely cut off and he didn't know what had gone wrong. One couldn't understand why, with second uncle's ability, he hadn't been able to investigate further. She really didn't believe that there was any power in this world that could even deceive second uncle's eyes and ears. Recently, some people in the family seemed to have started to get restless, and there seemed to be some undercurrents surging inside and outside the family. Being able to smoothly finish this university seemed to be the last of her contented days. Thinking about these things gave her a headache. She really couldn't accept it. Fortunately, she had beaten up a lot of people today, so she was in a much better mood. When the car comes to the mountain, there will be a road, and when the boat comes to the bridgehead, there will naturally be a way. If Qin Guang knew that a tomboy like me would also have troubles, he would definitely laugh his teeth off, wouldn't he? As she thought about it, Wen turned her head again and faced Qin Guang, who was staring blankly at her. For a moment she smiled. 10 miles of spring breeze didn't care, but a smile could charm 100 people. Caught off guard by her smile, Qin Guang blushed and turned his head away. His heart was pounding and there was only one thought in his mind. It was terrifying. How could I let my imagination run wild because of this tomboy's smile? And this was after witnessing her valiance just now? Is there something wrong with my sexual orientation? What are you doing? Why are you scaring me? Qin Guang fiercely hammered his chest twice. Even the boys and girls at the desk next to him gave him a strange look, but he managed to calm his heartbeat. Wen spat in her heart. Your words don't sound pleasant. I smiled at you and you actually said I was scaring you. Her cunning mind suddenly jumped out again. You said I was scaring you, right? Then I'll give you some big news. Right, I see that you've been studying very hard recently, and your accuracy rate is almost 50%. Otherwise what? Qin Guang suddenly felt alarmed. This man was going to make a big move. Otherwise I'll give you a little reward in advance? Then I'll stimulate your motivation? Sure enough. To be honest, since he recognized Lioli as his master, the old man hadn't drawn a map for a few days. You're making me lose my essence. No, now is the crucial moment for the old man to practice the 10 lands 8 wastelands celestial demon transformation. I can't allow the vital yang essence to be wasted for nothing. I must stabilize my heart. Is what you said true? My mouth. I can't control it anymore. Wen immediately laughed like a flower. She couldn't care less about the other boys who were already peeking in this direction. She clutched her stomach with one hand and stuck out a slender finger with the other, heavily poking Qin Guang's forehead. He almost flipped over. Dream on. Was it true? With your current appearance you still have to kneel. The two of them were teasing each other here, but they didn't notice that a pair of eyes filled with hatred and jealousy was staring at Qin Guang from the gap of the stairs on the upper floor of the library. Zheng He's knuckles turned white. He was so jealous that he almost went crazy. On what basis? What virtue and ability do you, Qin Guang, on what basis? Chapter 148. Time flew and in the blink of an eye, it was the weekend again. Well, it had only been a day. Waking up early in the morning, Qin Guang drove the Rena that he had escaped death to the city. When the master of the auto repair shop handed the repaired car to him, he said to him with tears in his eyes, "Little Qin, don't ruin the car like this. I feel pain for it just by looking at it." Qin Guang's face was red. He gritted his teeth and explained to the master, "It's not what you think. The people sent by Zhu Jifa left their hometown at about 6 o'clock in the morning. It was estimated that they would be sent to the long-distance bus station at 6 Apricot Tower by 9 o'clock. Qin Guang was going to pick up his parents and then go to Wujing City Hospital. After all, the people sent by Zhu Jifa to the provincial capital had other things to do. It was already very troublesome for them to hitch a ride to 6 Apricot Tower. When he saw his parents, they were surrounded by a lot of old men and women who were recommending some healthcare products to them. Before Qin Guang could walk to his seat and speak, he saw his father, Qin Guoli, suddenly take out a large bottle of Puss Corporation special medicine from his backpack and shouted, "Pure American imported medicine. Specializes in treating rheumatoid arthritis, lumbar disc herniation, frequent urination, sore legs. Come take a look. You won't be able to find such a shop. English. Do you know him? Pure imported. If it's fake, I'll pay you 10 times the price." The group of old masters and aunties at the side rolled their eyes and turned around to leave. Damn it, a fellow traveler from another city had rushed into the temple of the Dragon King. Qin Guang immediately took a step back and planned to greet his parents after a while. But there was nothing he could do about it. Although he managed to scare away his peer, the gazes of the passers-by were too lethal. He covered his face. My family is unfortunate. My teasing is definitely inherited from my father. Son. Here. Damn Dad, you're so old but your eyes are still so good. I've already covered my face, yet you can still pick me out from the crowd. Is it because my hairstyle is too cool and eye-catching? When the two elders got into the car, Qin Guang vaguely heard others say that this family of swindlers had made a fortune and could even afford a car. The moral degeneration of the world was getting worse. On the road, Qin Guoli wanted to interrogate Qin Guang several times about how he earned the 180,000 yuan, but when he looked at his wife, Feng Rong, who was breathing heavily, he didn't open his mouth in the end. He was afraid of scaring Feng Rong, so he had given Feng Rong an excuse, saying that he had contacted an old comrade in arms, who knew that his family was in trouble, and had lent him 180,000 yuan. At that time, Feng Rong was extremely touched. She knew that her family was in such a difficult situation and was like a bottomless pit, but he was still willing to lend her 180,000 yuan. No matter what, she wanted to personally express her gratitude. Later, Qin Guoli had no choice but to lie again and again, saying that he was now a big boss and had gone overseas on a business trip. He wouldn't be back for 2 to 3 months and he couldn't get through to the domestic phone either. Only then did he reluctantly give up. Qin Guang stared at the red light at the intersection carefully and finally asked. It wasn't that he had forgotten, but from the moment he picked up the two of them, he could tell that his mother's condition wasn't right. He didn't dare to ask, but now he couldn't hold it in anymore. Dad, Mom hasn't stopped her dialysis recently, right? Qin Guang asked. Before Qin Guoli could speak, Feng Rong spoke first. She waved her hand casually. Of course not. Your dad works so hard to earn money. Some time ago, he had a comrade in arms who was a boss who lent us 180,000 yuan. Our family isn't short of money now, but we have to thank him later. Alright, old Qin, does your comrade in arms have a daughter? Is she close to Xiao Guang's age? Alright. Haven't you earned enough? Isn't it enough to earn 180,000 yuan from him? You want to earn his daughter too? Qin Guoli had to continue making up lies. It was tiring. Feng Rong glared at him. What are you saying? Our Xiao Guang is a top student from a top university. His future is limitless. Our family might be a little poor now, but Xiao Guang is very capable. It's not a loss to have an in-law, right? Isn't this very popular among comrade in arms? Mom, forget it. What era are we in now? That's not popular anymore. We youngsters all want to be free to love. Who would still do this? Of course, Qin Guang knew that there was no such thing as a boss comrade in arms. A comrade in arms who could help the village had already raised 100 to 200,000 yuan for his dad. Wasn't the boss comrade in arms that his mom was talking about him? It was really hard on his dad. He had to keep up such a big lie until now. If it was someone with a slower brain, he would have been exposed long ago. However, seeing that his mom could still ramble on. Although her complexion didn't look good, her body seemed to be in good condition. After all, the Puss Corporation's special medicine had never been stopped. Qin Guang's mood suddenly relaxed. Since Qin Guang had said so, Feng Rong didn't pester him about the comrade in arms anymore. She turned her head from the back seat and looked up and down at Qin Guang with a pained expression. It must have been hard on Xiao Guang these days. You have to go to school and drive at the same time. You must be tired, right? Sigh, Mom's illness can't be cured. Looking at you skinny makes me feel terrible. If it wasn't for the fact that you haven't graduated from university and haven't married yet to give birth to a grandchild for me, I would have given up long ago. Qin Guang's mood was a little complicated. My current body can also be called skinny. When I take off my outer clothes and stand on the side of the road, I look like a top male model. When the students from Dachuan Academy of Fine Arts pass by, they have to take out their drawing boards to draw me a portrait of David. However, when he heard the second half of his mom's words, his heart felt terrible. The energy of this roasting and the feeling of discomfort mixed together. The feeling was too complicated. Qin Guang helped Qin Guoli out of the predicament. On the other side, Qin Guoli saw that Qin Guang's expression was a little gloomy after listening to his mom's words. He pulled his wife's shoulder. What nonsense are you talking about? If you're sick, you have to treat it. We have 2 grown men in our family, can't we handle it? Xiao Guang is concentrating on driving. Don't talk nonsense with him and disturb his driving. If he gets a traffic ticket, he will have to deduct points and pay a fine. Sure enough, Feng Rong was frightened. She didn't say any more nonsense, but there was a dull pain in her stomach, but she endured it and slowly sat back down. 2 drops of cold sweat appeared on the tip of her nose, but she didn't make a sound. Chen Guoli held her hand from the side and gave her an encouraging look. He knew that she did not want to make Chen Guang uncomfortable. There was a little traffic jam today. When the group of them arrived at the hospital, it was almost noon. It was the time when the doctors got off work. Chen Guang let his parents have lunch at the small shop at the entrance of the hospital while he rushed in with an empty stomach. His dad would bring his lunch over later. Although his mother's attending physician, Dr. Ma, was not very famous and was not a famous expert, because he was serious and responsible, there had always been a lot of patients. Even if the old patients came, unless it was an emergency, they would usually have to wait in line. Just as they stood in the queue, Chen Guang saw someone unexpected. It was his cheap sister Wu Tong. This woman walked out of the doctor's office with a troubled look. Chapter 149. After taking 2 steps, Wu Tong raised her head and saw Chen Guang standing in the crowd, staring at her. She opened her mouth wide and stared blankly for a moment before regaining her composure. Her expression became even more complicated. After thinking for a while, she still walked towards Chen Guang. Chen Guang was puzzled. What's wrong with this woman today? She's different from my impression of a tough and domineering police officer. Wu Tong walked in front of Chen Guang and asked, "What are you doing here?" Chen Guang gestured to the long queue in front of him. "I'm accompanying my mom to the hospital to see a doctor. I'm waiting to hand in the registration form. What about you?" Wu Tong blushed, but she quickly calmed down and waved her hand casually. "I'm here to chat with a friend." "What's wrong with your mom?" Chen Guang was still in a daze. "Mom? Your mom? Really?" Wu Tong blushed even more. Chen Guang's expression darkened. He hesitated for a moment and said, "It's nothing serious. She's old and has some minor problems. But my dad made a fuss and insisted that she come to Wujing City Hospital." Wu Tong believed his words and said, "You brat. Old people can't be taken lightly even if they don't have minor illnesses. What do you mean your dad made a fuss? All right, if there's nothing else, I'll leave first. I still have to patrol." Waving goodbye to Chen Guang, Wu Tong strode away with her long legs, dragging away the gazes of many people nearby. When she turned around a corner, she suddenly leaned her back against the wall. Her little heart was thumping wildly. She thought in her heart, "I must have seen a ghost. Why is this brat's vengeful spirit still lingering? Wherever I go, I run into him. I'll be damned if I believe you." Thinking of what Tang Ying had said to her a few minutes ago, Wu Tong's heart couldn't calm down. What's wrong with you?" "Well, if you insist that you're sick, then it's lovesickness." "What nonsense are you talking about? I don't want that kind of person. Although I don't know who has charmed a little demon like you. However, you, Wu Tong, are already a girl in your 20s. If it was in ancient times, a girl of your age would have already arranged a marriage for her son. Just follow your heart. This day will come sooner or later anyway." "Conscience my ass. I'm telling you, this isn't normal. There was no reason for her to suddenly fall in love with someone she didn't even know before. This is simply unimaginable. There's nothing strange about it. We've watched so many romantic movies together. Don't you believe that love at first sight exists in this world?" "What love at first sight? Even if there was a clock, it wouldn't be like that. Besides, you're not young anymore. Why haven't you been seduced by some wild man?" "I'm not like a slacker like you. I'm a top student of my generation, the youngest PhD student in the history of Moorlands Medical College. I have long since made up my mind to devote my glorious and great life to the boundless cause of medicine. Get lost. Don't disturb me here. There are still 180 patients waiting for me. This bestie of hers is not reliable at all. She's the youngest PhD student in the history of Moorlands Medical College. You're not even as good as that dog skin plaster I caught on the street a few days ago. I anxiously ran over to you, hoping that you, a great doctor who had returned from abroad, could diagnose me and see if there was something wrong with me mentally or physically, but you only teased me. How infuriating." She didn't expect to bump into the ignorant Chen Guang the moment she walked out of Tang Ying's office in a huff. She almost jumped in fright. Fortunately, as a police officer, Wu Tong had good mental fortitude. She calmed herself down immediately. Although she also felt that Chen Guang's reply was a little unusual, she was even more flustered. She didn't have the guts to turn around and ask. She took a few deep breaths and hurried downstairs. Chen Guang was also full of doubts. However, he was worried about his mother's condition, so he didn't think too much about Wu Tong. After his parents came upstairs, Qin Guang ate lunch and waited with them. About 2 hours later they were finally called. "Miss Feng, please take a seat." Dr. Ma was indeed a responsible person. He didn't even look at the consultation card before calling out Feng Rong's surname. That wasn't all. He turned around and greeted Qin Guoli. "Mr. Qin, you should have come for a checkup last week. Why did you only come this week?" Qin Guoli scratched his head embarrassedly. "I was delayed by some trivial matters last week. I'm really sorry." Dr. Ma put on a straight face. "What's there to be embarrassed about? The patient is your family member. You should be embarrassed about yourself. Remember, you can't delay this in the future. The patient's health is more important." Qin Guoli nodded repeatedly. Dr. Ma consulted Qin Guoli about Feng Rong's condition for a long time. In the end, he wrote a bunch of forms and asked Qin Guoli to take them to prepare to arrange for Feng Rong to be admitted to the hospital first. At the same time, he wanted to do all kinds of checkups. Her dialysis this time would be done at the city hospital together. It would probably take a few days before she could be discharged. The few of them were busy in the hospital for a while. They had to move the beds in the ward and rush to do a lot of checkups. It was only after dinner that they finally settled down in the ward. Qin Guang chatted with his parents in the hospital the whole time. He planned to go back to school after 9 o'clock and come over early the next morning. When it was about 8:30 p.m., Dr. Ma came. Everyone couldn't help but feel that it was a little strange. Since Dr. Ma was the one who was seeing patients during the day, he should have gone home to rest at this time. It should be another doctor on duty who came. Dr. Ma chatted with everyone along the way and asked questions along the way. After waiting for about 20 minutes, he stood in front of Qin Guang's family. Originally, Qin Guang planned to leave, but since Dr. Ma came, he stayed. He wanted to listen to what he and his mother asked. It was still the usual questions. Then Dr. Ma suddenly changed the topic and said something else. "Actually, it's like this. I will be going to Moreland's Medical College in the United States to further my studies in 2 days. So, all the patients under my name will be transferred to another doctor who returned from Moreland's Medical College, Dr. Tang. Previously, the other patients have already been notified one by one. They have also met Dr. Tang. Madame Feng just came today. I thought that I would have to leave tomorrow, so I specially came to inform Mr. Chen and the rest." "What?" Qin Guang's family was a little surprised. They also felt a little uneasy. Dr. Ma was so serious and responsible. Who knew if the person who took over his shift would be the same as him? Of course, everyone had known each other for almost a year. Seeing that he was going to leave, they were also reluctant. Chapter 150. Seeing everyone like this, Dr. Ma smiled. "All of you don't worry. Moreland's Medical College is a sacred place in my eyes. I'm so happy to have the opportunity to further my studies there. Dr. Tang is the youngest doctor in Moreland's Medical College in the past 10 years. Before she returned to China, she already had a lot of clinical experience. She even diagnosed a lot of famous people on the other side of the Atlantic. One of them is probably a senior executive at Google. They specially spent $1 million to treat her. Of course, she successfully completed her mission and brought the patient back from the brink of death." When Qin Guang's family heard how Dr. Ma described Dr. Tang, they couldn't help but feel happy. However, they felt a little embarrassed as it was in front of Dr. Ma. Qin Guoli was still mature. He immediately waved his hand. "What do you mean by spending $1 million to treat a patient? This is written in those Chicken Soup for the Soul stories. However, since it's the hospital's decision, we believe in the hospital and Dr. Ma's choice." Dr. Ma became serious. "Mr. Chen, don't doubt me. I know my own standard very well. Although I'm a few years older, I might not even be comparable to a normal doctor in Moreland's Medical College, let alone a genius like Dr. Tang. What I told you is all true. Dr. Tang is also very responsible." Before the official handover, she had already read all the patient's medical records. She came prepared. Although the 3 Chen family members were still reluctant to leave Dr. Ma, they were secretly looking forward to it. They really wanted to see what kind of person Dr. Tang was. At this moment, a large group of people came in. Dr. Ma raised his head and smiled. He pointed at the door and said, "Speak of the devil. Dr. Tang is here. She's the prettiest female doctor. I'll bring her to talk to you. Actually, she already knows a lot about your condition." Qin Guang followed Dr. Ma's finger and looked at the door. He was instantly stunned. The person in the white coat was walking in front. Although the clothes she was wearing were different from that day, Her face was clearly that of the drunk woman. Ever since Qin Guang had hung up on her and blacklisted her, she had tried different numbers to call him. Whenever she heard her voice, she would pinch the number and ignore her. But he never expected to meet her again in this hospital, and she was about to become his mother's attending physician. He subconsciously thought of this woman's appearance when she was drunk into a pool of mud, and then looked at her excessively young face. Qin Guang's heart suddenly turned cold. His parents were still looking at the young female doctor expectantly. His father sighed. He's really a young genius. Dr. Tang is so young? Feng Rong, who was lying on the bed, also straightened her neck. She looks like she's in her 20s. Dr. Ma nodded and smiled at Tang Ying. Then he turned around and sighed, that's right. It's more difficult to get a doctorate from Morelands Medical College than to become a professor in our National Medical University. But she's only 26 years old. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Qin Guang felt that Dr. Ma was praising the drunk woman too much. He thought about it again. Wasn't Dr. Ma going to Morelands Medical College? The drunk woman must have found a way for Dr. Ma to get into that so-called Morelands Medical College. That was why he was sparing no effort to help this woman get promoted in the hospital. At the thought of this, Qin Guang's already bad impression of Tang Ying dropped by 30%. I've seen you at your worst. How can I believe that you're a so-called genius doctor? You're only 26 years old. How can I trust you with my mother's life? Not only did Qin Guang see Tang Ying, but she also saw Qin Guang. She was even more dumbfounded. She did not even notice Dr. Ma nodding at her. She was stunned at the door of the ward, and an inexplicable sense of fear welled up in her heart. She just watched helplessly as Qin Guang looked at her. His gaze changed from surprise to doubt and then, disgust? That's right. That gaze was clearly disgust. Of course Tang Ying knew why the boy was like this. She was also embarrassed because of what happened that day. Every time she thought about it, she felt ashamed. Dr. Tang, what's wrong with you? A large group of interns and nurses followed behind her, but she blocked the door and could not enter. A young nurse could not help but ask quietly. Tang Ying suddenly came back to her senses. She no longer looked at Qin Guang. Instead, she sorted out her emotions and walked to the bed closest to the door. Today she was not a drunken woman. She was an attending physician. She was here to work and make ward rounds. Everything else should be put aside for now. However, since she met him here and he seemed to be a patient's family member, he could not continue to hide from her this time. At the same time, she could also settle her worries. At this time, Dr. Ma came over and greeted Tang Ying. He said, Dr. Tang, come over here first. Miss Feng Rong is a patient who just came here today. I'll introduce you to her and then I'll go home. Tang Ying did not react. When she entered the door just now, she did not see Dr. Ma at all. However, she still hurriedly greeted Dr. Ma. Then she looked in the direction that Dr. Ma was pointing. It was the bed next to Qin Guang. According to Dr. Ma, the lady next to the bed was Feng Rong. Tang Ying had already memorized Feng Rong's medical records. Of course, she knew her condition. It was a very typical chronic kidney failure. Looking at them, they seemed to be a family of 3. He was Feng Rong's son? No wonder he drove a sports car all day to earn money even though he was a college student. It turned out that there was such a reason. I thought that he was a college student who wanted something new and ran around to have fun. I didn't think that he was just being filial. Then, she remembered that he had wasted a few hours of earning money in order to wait for her to sober up. No wonder he was so angry after being misunderstood. Thinking of this, Tang Ying felt even more ashamed. She must find a chance to explain to him. As for Feng Rong's illness, she had to do her best regardless of whether it was true or not. With this thought in mind, Tang Ying finally calmed herself down. She walked over with a smile, greeted him and began to ask questions. During the whole process of Tang Ying's questioning, Qin Guang did not say a word. He hid the disgust and distrust in his heart deeply and only looked at the woman coldly. The examination results would only come out tomorrow. No matter how good Tang Ying was today, she could not get any substantial information from him. It was just a very simple and casual conversation between the new doctor and the patient. Dr. Ma hurriedly left halfway through the conversation. Before he left, he only said goodbye and said happily, I'll leave the rest to you. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.